The priest solemnly pronounces the two married, and soon the joyful sounds of bells begin to ring out through the church. People around smile happily, congratulate the newlyweds, and admire what a wonderful couple they see in front of them. After this, they kiss, and the main character suddenly notices a strange notification that she was unable to complete the game. Stunned, she can't believe her eyes, but a new message arrives. The game has ended unsuccessfully and a reset has begun. She is also informed that she will not be able to return to reality until she reaches the finale, at which point the young lady begins to fall into the void. She realizes she never wanted this outcome. After all, 3 years ago, she found herself trapped inside this game. She had a boyfriend with whom she dated for a long time, but he broke off the engagement, leaving her alone. The girl, unable to bear the pain, decided to escape from reality and accidentally stumbled upon a game called Heroine. The game was a reverse harem dating sim, and now a notification appeared on the screen. She was back at the very beginning of the second episode. One of the characters addresses her, expressing the hope that she is listening carefully and will not be offended. Then he talks about breaking up, and the heroine realizes that she is inside the game again. She wonders if the goal is to reach the finale, then she was probably transferred directly into the main character's body. After all, what else could a bride feel who has just lost her beloved? Right now, she's filled with disappointment. The girl also wonders when she will be able to control her body at will, because her soul is still connecting with the new body. At this time, the young man apologizes to her, but the lady feels that his words are false. This man is just playing a role. He claims no words can ease her pain. This man is one of the main characters, Count Mayent. He doesn't even realize how hypocritical he is, clinging to everything in sight and in the end, betraying the young lady. That's how her first attempt ended. Now he says they'll soon send a letter breaking off the engagement. After these words, the man leaves and the heroine receives a notification. The transfer will end in 10 seconds. She realizes that she wants to return to reality because she is tired of endless dates and plots. The movement ends, and the girl finally feels that she can move again as she wishes. Then she decides that she is not going to lose anymore and wonders why the guy is missing important moments. After all, he's obligated to return the rights to develop the Elbash forest, which he received through his engagement. These words surprise the young man. The heroine reminds him that if he breaks off the engagement, he must leave the family business. He shouldn't behave so shamelessly. After all, it wasn't she who left him, and she hopes that he won't create problems. The lady takes the cape and tells the guy to prepare all the papers to send them along with the breakup letter. After this, he announces that he's leaving. But as soon as she leaves the restaurant, the girl stops. She notices a woman who is clearly trying to please the count by wearing shoes that are too tight. The girl guesses that she knew how it would all end. But now the protagonist understands that to avoid the pain of the reboot, she needs to urgently find another hero. She takes off her uncomfortable heels and thinks about how she previously lacked the necessary knowledge. This time, she intends to change everything. Looking back, the lady wonders why her character let the carriage go. He understands that he needs to look for other transport, but turning around, he notices Count Mayent. And then a memory comes over her. How she once stood on her knees, begging him, but it was all in vain. Now she decided to leave without delay, because meeting him again would only cause awkwardness. Suddenly, she's overjoyed to see a carriage nearby. A man inside hears some noises and wonders what's going on. At that very moment, the girl opens the door and notices that there is already someone inside. She quickly apologizes and asks the stranger to help her, to hold her hand, because she doesn't have time to wait. The young man silently puts the newspaper down, and the heroine thinks how tired she is of this fluffy dress. The man extends his hand to her, but then the coachman appears, apologizes, and says that this is a private carriage. The lady is stunned. Did she really just accidentally climb into someone else's carriage? She's overcome with embarrassment, but the man inside notices she's in a hurry and offers to leave together. She apologizes again, admitting that she was mistaken, but looking at him more closely, she suddenly freezes. Then the guy calmly asks where exactly he can take her. After this, he inquired whether the young girl was the daughter of Count Serdel Robest. She seemed to be in an awkward position, so she apologized with a slight smile and moved a little closer to him. He responds with a soft smile, and she suddenly realizes that there is no doubt that this is exactly the one she was thinking of. In the world where these events take place, the man had 4 possible lovers, and he was one of them. Damon Spendar, that's his name. At this point, he admits he was worried that the girl had climbed into the carriage too quickly and could have gotten hurt. The protagonist instantly understands who stands before her. Damon Spendar, the Marquis's heir, is one of the key characters in this story. From what she knows, he's a considerate and kind person, so she calmly says she's fine. She adds that she sincerely regrets it, because if she had known whose carriage it was, she would never have dared to enter it. The guy only replies with a slight grin that he has already heard several times, that everything is fine with her, and it is a great honor for him to help the beautiful lady. The girl notices how easily he says such words. After thanking him, she hears him suggest they rest a bit on the way to the estate. She remembers how it all started with her simply reaching out to the carriage. Everything that's happening seems unexpected to her, as if the game is taking another unexpected turn. Now everything is going better than last time, because then she was left alone without warning. She then wandered the streets, not knowing where to go, and later received a stern reprimand from her father. The world that she had previously considered just a game turned out to be an alien, imposed life in which she could not change anything. Now the girl realizes how stupid she acted, because there was another proud and difficult person next to her. He looked intimidating, but if Damon stood up, he would look impressive, tall, stately, strong, and incredibly popular among the nobility. If the Marquis had appeared at the ball, the entire room would have turned its attention to him, his handsome appearance, friendly smile, and noble manners. He seemed uninterested in superficial entertainment. He paid no attention to any woman, earning him the nickname, the Stone-Faced Man. Even Alex's character couldn't see his true end. That's precisely why he attracted her. The girl turns to Mr. Damon, who, without looking up from his newspaper, asks him to continue. Then she asks if he's interested in developing the Elbash lands. Damon calmly confirms that he still is. He then asks if her fiancé, Count Mayent, had intended to take part in this matter. The girl says that this had indeed been discussed previously. However, today she decided to break off the engagement, and just then she noticed that they had already arrived at their destination. She thanks Mr. Damon for making her journey comfortable. He replies that he's happy to be of assistance. As the girl is about to get out of the carriage, she suddenly remembers that she is still wearing heels. But the realization comes too late. Losing her balance, she almost falls. The Marquis deftly catches her, saving her from falling. The girl thanks him, and he, bending slightly, touches her hand with his lips. He says he's sorry for such a short meeting, but it's time for him to go. However, if she allows it, he'd like to give her a gift at any time convenient for her, as he dreams of seeing her again. The main character is happy because everything is going according to plan. He, as expected, took the bait. She replies that she will send someone the day after tomorrow to discuss the details. When the girl enters the mansion, she is greeted by a maid, who happily remarks that the date must have gone wonderfully. But suddenly the maid notices the state of her legs with horror and exclaims what has happened to them. The girl tries to justify herself. The maid screams, reminding him that she warned him not to wear those shoes. The bubbles have disappeared, but Siri still asks worriedly if it hurts her mistress. Then the heroine suddenly hugs her tightly. The maid is embarrassed, not understanding what has happened, and cautiously asks why her mistress is so agitated. The young lady realizes that for the first time in a long time, she feels inner peace and true happiness. Reflecting, she remembers that she didn't see the maid yesterday either, because her place was then taken by Siri from the future. The young maid from earlier is genuinely happy to see her. The pink-haired lady turns to her mistress and says she was beaming with happiness when she left. However, she cannot resist asking why the lady now looks sad and what has happened during this time. The young lady replies that too much has happened during this period, perhaps even too much. Gradually, she realizes that Count Mayent and she were indeed engaged, and at the time this brought her a lot of suffering. She compares herself to a mermaid who lost her voice and turned into foam before returning to the past. But she understands that she cannot admit this, and simply says that she broke off the engagement herself. The maid is amazed and confused, asking what exactly the mistress means and whether it is true. She in turn tells Siri to calm down, not wanting to escalate the situation. Siri responds by asking how she can remain calm and is worried if everything is okay with the lady. The lady is slightly surprised, because it was she herself who decided to break up with the count. Then she wonders why she has to console the maid and asks Siri not to cry, because she had no intention of marrying him. The lady says she simply broke off the engagement, and the maid, still agitated, asks if she is sure of her decision. Siri carefully reminds that the lady really liked Count Mayent, but the lady denies this, realizing that all those feelings were just an illusion that she convinced herself of. She realizes that Siri was the only one in this house who truly supported her, and gratefully confirms that she is okay. After this, he asks the maid not to cry, because now there is no reason for tears and regrets. She remembers that she used to be much more unhappy than she is now, and this brings a bitter smile. Even if the past was painful, she doesn't want any more pity from others or from herself. Because this time, she won't allow the same ending to happen, and intends to change everything for the better. That's why she asks Siri not to cry, because she won't let anyone hurt her anymore. After some time, the main character turns to her father and brother, inviting them to have dinner together that evening. The brother is surprised by her words and asks again if he heard wrong. The father asks if something happened, and the girl only calmly replies that she expected such a reaction. After all, they hadn't gathered together since their mother fell into eternal sleep 10 years ago. Back then, Serdell felt like an outsider, but now she just wants to say a few things at the table. She adds that the dining room is already prepared and invites them to go there, but her brother asks if they should say everything right now. After all, the girl had never come there on her own since childhood, and he was surprised to see her take the initiative. Her father, however, said he'd join her once he'd changed. The young lady smiles back, and her brother looks at her incredulously, thinking that he might have a stomachache after dinner. After some time, they are already sitting at the table, and the maid and butler are trying to diffuse the tense atmosphere. The man says how nice it is to see everyone together again, and the maid agrees, but after these words, an awkward silence reigns. The butler then remarks that it is a pity that Lady Addis was unable to attend this meeting. After this, no one dares to speak again, and the servants only glance at each other, feeling the growing tension in the air. When the main character finishes dinner, she calmly says that she intends to break off her engagement to Count Maiten, which surprises the entire family. The father asks in bewilderment what they are talking about, and the girl explains that the Count did not invite her to a meeting at all, but to end their relationship. She adds that she agreed without hesitation, and her brother, struck by her calmness, asks how she can be so indifferent, since everything happened because of her. But the young lady only responds by wondering why it was called an incident, and why he decided that she should lose her composure. She wonders if she should cry and make a scene, even though she can clearly see that no one even thought to ask how she feels. Though she considered her family look at her with pity, and their words cut her heart. She realizes she's been waiting in vain for warmth. This isn't her real family. So she decides to act wisely, get what she needs and not pay any more attention to them, adding that the letter breaking off the engagement will probably arrive in the morning. She mentions that she demanded the return of the rights to develop the Elbash forest. Her father clarifies whether these are the rights in question. He asks suspiciously if she had anything to do with family matters, and the girl notes that the mention of the forest immediately made him wary. She realizes that if she stops expecting anything from them, then there will be no more disappointment. Then she calmly says that she had not previously taken part, but now she wants to make a request concerning this matter. The man asks what right she has to interfere, and the young lady replies that she is the daughter of Count Carthel Robesta and a member of that family and therefore has the right to speak out. The father notes that even marriage can be considered part of the family business and wonders why one should support a failed business. But the girl confidently declares that she sees no point in dealing with Count Maiten because the Robesta family should not cooperate with such a self-confident man. She adds that there are many others who want to obtain the rights to develop the Elbash forest. The man wonders, when did this girl learn to speak with such firmness? He notices the boldness and determination in her gaze, and the young lady continues, asserting that there are families who are much better able to handle this matter. The man involuntarily thinks, "The Elbash forest really is of great value. It is located on the western edge of Robusta County, and due to its many dangerous zones, the area has long been considered off-limits. Only officially registered hunters could enter there, as ordinary people were not allowed to enter. But a few months ago, poachers who wandered deep into the forests stumbled upon deposits of magical stones. Rumors of this spread like wildfire, and Elbash became the subject of heated discussions throughout the area. Count Robusta decided to clear the lands of monsters and take control of the forest into his own hands. Although the deposit was located within his domain, most of the rights still belonged to the emperor. In return, the count received generous funding and military support, which became an excellent opportunity to get rid of the monsters that had plagued him for many years. Now the count had no reason to stop, and the young lady clearly understood that they needed new people to complete the development they had begun. Count Mayent, whose lands were located next to theirs, was chosen as the girl's groom, and looking back, she realized that there were no other reasons for this choice. The man asked if she had a better option, since their union had already been discussed with Count Mayent several times. The young lady replied that it was all just talk, as no agreement had ever been formally concluded. Then the man inquired about how things were progressing. She also noted that if rumors about the breakup of the engagement reached society, it would create unnecessary difficulties, so she asked for a little time. She promised to introduce a worthy man, devoid of egoism. Her brother watched her in surprise. Never before had she spoken with such confidence. The father said that when Count Mayent arrived, he would accept the letter of dissolution of the alliance and return the rights to develop the Elbash forest, for which the girl expressed gratitude. He also added that there was no point in bowing one's head before such a thing, so let his daughter not worry about the consequences. After these words, the man left the room, leaving the girl alone with her brother. She sighed heavily, but then Radon turned to her, wanting to understand what was happening, but the girl asked what he meant. He said that their engagement was broken off and unilaterally. He was surprised by her calmness, and the girl remembered how in a past life this news brought her great pain. She thought he was repeating the same words, because now she knew how painful it was to feel neglect. So she thought about which side of herself she should show, and then said that she was tired and would go to rest. She wished her brother to relax a little too, but he asked her to wait. However, when he finished his sentence, the girl had already gone out into the corridor. After some time, the maid approached the lady and asked if she was ready. Then she announced that Count Mayent had arrived and asked her to come down. The girl headed down. On the stairs, she bumped into a girl and immediately recognized Addis Robusta. She was the eldest daughter of Count Robusta and vice captain of the Imperial Knights. She was always busy with her work and rarely returned home early, so the young lady noticed that she had not seen her for a long time. But Addis only asked if her father was in the office. The girl sensed that she was upset about something and replied that her father was in the living room. She added that Count Mayent had arrived with a letter breaking off the engagement. These words greatly surprised Addis. The main character calmly confirmed what she had heard and suggested that if they were interested, they could go together. A few minutes later, the maids announced that the lady had arrived, and the girl entered the hall where the count was already waiting. He looked pathetic and depressed, and anyone looking at him would have decided that he was deeply sorry. With a smile on her face, the girl said that she was glad to meet him and hoped that he was well prepared for the dissolution of the union. She expressed confidence that there would be no problems with the documents. Then her father asked if the count himself had initiated the breakup, but the young man remained silent, and then his father asked if he could find out the reason. The guy continued to remain silent, and the girl realized that the count was noticeably nervous. Although their statuses were equal, his father's age and experience commanded respect, so it was difficult for the young man to directly state his decision while retaining his business rights. The girl mentally called him selfish. Kartal recalled that the day before, his daughter had said the young man had betrayed her trust. He asked if this was all connected with another woman. Since the count did not respond, the father concluded that this was true and demanded to see the prepared documents. The young man put a letter about the dissolution of the union on the table, but the man asked where the rest of the papers were. He recalled that Serdel had ordered the rights to develop the Elbash forest to be returned. The young man then objected, saying that personal matters and business were unrelated, and asked if he understood correctly. The father calmly asked whether this should be considered as a separate issue, but the young lady's sister could not resist and slammed the table. She said it was absurd, because marriages between aristocrats were initially concluded for profit, and if their relationship ended, then the rights should be returned. The young man wanted to add something, but Addis interrupted him, saying that he was treating the Robusta family too frivolously. And it also seemed incredible to her that for him this was just a joke, and that he actually decided to humiliate them, thinking that there was some meaning in it. The main character realizes the absurdity of what is happening and decides to repeat the situation, after which she thinks that he is simply a selfish and stupid person. The girl then wonders if Serdel really sees him as someone who can be treated like this, since it is only at moments like these that the family shows concern for her. Addis reminds him that the Count's patience is not limitless, and suggests they stop their idle chatter and settle matters immediately. The young lady's brother agrees, insisting they will finish everything right here and now. However, it seems he cannot simply give up the Elbash forest, which creates additional tension. To buy time, the preparation of the document is postponed, but the butler still places the papers on the table for signature. The young lady's brother smiles and directs the young man to include in the document a clause stating that from the moment of the dissolution of the engagement he renounces any rights to develop the Elbash forest. He is forbidden to talk about the details of the case, and he must also complete all the paperwork and send it to the Count's estate within a few days. Mayant is surprised to realize he's being asked to sign his own memorandum. The young lady's brother convinces him that if it's beneficial, he should take advantage of it. After all, one Count had already managed to disgrace their family, so there was no need to be too upset about this formality. In addition, he most likely knows that he can demand compensation in the event of a unilateral termination of the engagement. The main character understands that no one can compare to her brother in terms of sarcasm and cunning. Meanwhile, Radan notes that if the situation becomes even more difficult, they will act differently, thinking through new options. He then asks Count Mant to fulfill all the conditions, as long as the others remain patient with him. The guy turns to the main character, clearly seeking her support and help in this difficult situation. However, the young lady only reminds him that he does not want to put her in an awkward position, perfectly understanding the Count's motives. She knows who the Count really loves, and the guy, slightly stunned, turns to her, trying to understand the situation. Meanwhile, Serdel reminds the Count that he should have behaved correctly, and asks if he hadn't heard this yesterday. All present watch the Count closely, assessing his reaction to pressure and demands. Under terrible pressure, he takes up the pen and finally signs the document, completing the necessary formalities. After the guy leaves, no one leaves the room, and the main character realizes that they have been sitting there for about 10 minutes in tension. The young lady's brother is the first to break the silence, asking if she really knew whom the Count loved, and what she would have done if he had not asked for a break. The girl reflects that the main character's calm yesterday seemed strange, because only the Count was embarrassed, and her sister asks why she didn't say anything earlier, rejoicing at the resolution of the situation. She wonders if the conversation about breaking off the engagement had coincided with questions about the forest. The Count would have been even more insolent. Addis reminds her that the young lady's marriage isn't her sole concern, as even simple questions are tied to family matters. The main character interrupts her sister and notes that a lot of time has passed since their last meeting, but she is still the same as before. Addis asks what this is all about, and the young lady explains that, although she appears calm, she had to break off her engagement today. She adds that she should have asked if she was okay first, instead of scolding or pressuring her. The main character says that now that everything is settled, it would be good not to hurt each other's feelings by not making up unnecessary things. The young lady then announces that she is going to leave, and Addis asks if she is okay. The girl stops, bites her lip, and honestly answers that she is not okay at all, emphasizing her internal state. She repeats that she is leaving the rest of the family in the room completely bewildered, without giving them a chance to speak. After some time, the young lady begins to realize where she is, and memories gradually return to her. She understands that she has definitely left the room, But the details of what happened after remain hazy, and now what is happening around her seems strange to her. Suddenly, the girl notices with horror that a system message has appeared on the screen, something that has not happened since her move and the first failure. She tries to make out the text, but the words seem to float before her eyes, making it impossible to concentrate. At this moment, the young lady loses her balance and falls, and at the same time opens her eyes, as if emerging from a strange dream. A maid stands before her with tears in her eyes and asks if everything is all right with her mistress, showing genuine concern. Addis reports that the girl has finally regained consciousness, and her brother is worriedly asking how she is feeling after being unconscious for such a long time. The main character is a little surprised and reflects on the expressions on their faces, and the guy exclaims that he asked if she felt better. Serdell slowly gets out of bed, wondering how many times he will have to repeat these actions to be sure of her condition. The maid turns to the lady, explaining that she has not come to her senses for 10 days, and everyone is worried, afraid that she will not wake up again. The girl is shocked to realize that she has been sleeping for so long. If before the loss of consciousness lasted only a day, now a whole 10 days have passed. She realizes that the blurry system messages were only appearing for moments, perhaps a side effect of the reboot and returning to another person's past. Serdell is worried that she couldn't read the system's message, wondering if it was a fine notification, but she realizes that it's important to deal with reality now. She finds it hard to believe that 10 days have been lost, and the first thing she needs to do is contact Damon, who is probably already waiting for her answer. At this point, the maid approaches her again, asking if everything is okay and if she is experiencing any pain anywhere. The girl gets out of bed and claims that everything is fine. She just remembered something important that needs to be done. Her brother asks her in surprise where she is going, since she just woke up after a long sleep. The main character takes him by the hand and asks what is important now, because what happens to Togo doesn't matter. The young man is surprised, but wonders if Serdell has always been like this, and what kind of a gulf has arisen between them recently. They were never close, but even in this situation, their alienation seems excessive. Addis reports that the doctor has already been there and that the girl's heartbeat was unstable due to shock, so she should rest. The main character replies that there is no need to rest, and if there is nothing more to say, then it is better for them to leave her room. Everyone is surprised by her determination and falls silent for a moment. The father is the first to decide to leave, leaving his daughter alone to rest. The brother and sister follow his example, and when they leave, the girl asks Siri to call the butler immediately. When the maid leaves, the lady straightens up and realizes that she is finally alone, feeling a long-awaited peace. She understands that her body has had enough rest, despite being in bed for a long time, and her strength is gradually returning. The first thing the girl decides to do is apologize to Damon for such a long delay and the unpredictability of events. She begins writing a letter, wondering if this might be a side effect of the reboot. Meanwhile, Addis is practicing with a sword and remembers how his sister advised him to first make sure the girl was okay before reprimanding her. She remembers that the young lady then admitted that there was something wrong with her and that this was something to take into account, and about how the girl asked to be left alone if there was nothing more to say, demonstrating her desire for independence. Now Addis realizes that it is difficult to concentrate, noticing his sister's cold gaze and the even tone in which she speaks. Addis realizes that this is the first time he has seen Serdell like this, because before the girl could not even meet her gaze. But then the thought comes, has she ever really looked at her, more attentively and honestly? It became clear that being nice to the baby was difficult not only because of the age difference, but also because it was impossible to scold a child who had lost his mother. Addis is dissatisfied with the girl's behavior and feels regret, watching how she does not use her abilities and does not understand their power. Addis justifies herself by saying that she is too busy and does not have time for additional concerns. Now she wonders who pushed the child to the edge of the cliff, and realizes that the girl's loneliness is probably partly her fault. Because of this, the young lady pretended to be strong and tried to cope with her emotions on her own, hiding her weakness. The girl understands that if they are a family, it was wrong to act this way, and this leaves a bitter feeling inside. When she thinks of Hirschmanet, she thinks of him with irritation and considers him a real asshole. After some time, the Count's coachman asks what is going on, because the situation seems dangerous and tense. Addis stands in front of the horse and then approaches the carriage, assessing the situation around him with caution. Count Mayent asks what is going on, and at that moment the girl abruptly opens the carriage door, demonstrating determination. The young man looked at the girl with disbelief at the time, wondering if it was really Lady Addis in front of him, insisting that he had no way to contact them. The girl, however, secretly considered him repulsive and pretended ignorance of his words. Sister Addis also couldn't resist reminding him that the young man was supposed to send documents for the development of the Elbash forest within a few days, and wondered why this hadn't happened. The young man, feeling awkward, turned around and apologized, claiming he was a little busy at the moment, as if that explained all the delays. But the girl only became angry at this answer, realizing that in fact, he was not busy at all. And she realized that she needed to break all ties with this scoundrel as soon as possible. Taking up the sword, Addis showed determination, hinting that he should not test her patience, and reminded him of the promises he had once made that he had to keep. The young man noticed that she seemed to be threatening him, but Addis calmly replied that it was a real threat, asking him to be a gentleman and not to fuss unnecessarily. He asked if the girl was busy, and she, without wasting any time, threw her gloves straight at his carriage, as if throwing down a challenge. The young man was slightly surprised, and wondered if this gesture meant the beginning of a duel, since receiving a glove was always considered an invitation to a duel. Addis pressed her sword to his neck, and Count Mayent watched with incomprehension, surprised by such disrespect. The girl firmly stated that she was Addis Robesta, as well as the vice-captain of the Golden Falcon Knights, leaving no room for doubt about her status. She openly challenged Hirschmanet to a duel, noting that such an act was not at all disrespectful as long as she acted within the bounds of honor. The young man realized that the situation was truly difficult, because when one of the parties fails to fulfill its promises, justice requires decisive action. He knew he was a good swordsman, but he was up against a brilliant knight of the Golden Falcon, and the advantage was clearly not on his side. He had a premonition that he would be the one to bow his head in this confrontation, while simultaneously glancing at the street and assessing the situation. He noticed that passers-by were watching them, and advised the girl to calm down a little so as not to attract unnecessary attention. But Addis explained that she couldn't stop because, seeing her sister's pale face, she thought she was about to lose consciousness. Meanwhile, Addis noticed that the young man seemed completely unresponsive to her concerns and was observing the situation with indifference. She brought the sword closer to his throat again, reminding him that he was obligated to fulfill his part of the bargain properly, for her blade knew no mercy. And she threateningly hinted that she could cut off the Count's hand if he dared to retreat, which made the young man feel afraid, but he still agreed. After some time, Addis came to her sister and informed her that Damon Spendar had promised to come the following afternoon, and the young lady agreed without objection. At the same time, the sister wondered why Addis was acting so decisively, trying to understand her older sister's motives. The sister reported that she had already received all the documents for the development of the Elbash forest, and now no obligations bind her to Count Mayent. The main character made sure that everything was in place and was relieved to realize that the situation had resolved itself faster than she had expected, although she had previously thought that it would be much worse. Serdell, noticing that there was a bit of a mess due to the rush, nevertheless saw that this time everything was going smoothly, and the sister carefully placed a small bag with something on the table. She offered her daughter to eat what she had brought along, noting that this dish had become very popular and was worth trying. The main character was slightly surprised by her sister's concern and thanked her, but Addis only told her to rest and regain her strength. The girl then left the room and realized that she had saved many people whom she had previously cared for, sometimes without even noticing their needs. The weak were waiting for help, and she realized that she had not had time to pay attention to her younger sister, who also needed support. She also couldn't hold the little child's hand, but she thought that Serdell was the most like their mother among all the others. Every time she saw Serdel's weaknesses, Addis was afraid that her sister would repeat her mother's fate, and these thoughts constantly confused her. This unexpected and terrible incident was a real blow to everyone, turning into a great tragedy that no one expected. Even Addis lacked the courage to admit what had happened, and after the funeral she gradually became insensitive, hiding her emotions deep in her heart. And it all came back to light when Serdel lost consciousness, reminding her how hard it is to lose something truly important. The girl realized that it was too late, and realized that everything she had learned after losing her mother would have to be applied right now. It was as if she was convincing herself that if Serdel turned out to be weak, she would protect her, and would under no circumstances put pressure on her sister. She needed to be stronger for Serdel, and holding back her tears, she firmly decided that she would make sure that no one dared to harm the girl. At that moment, Addis looked at her hand and realized that even if the past could not be brought back, she would never let go of that hand again. Meanwhile, the main character was wondering whether Addis had managed to prepare a gift for her. When she opened the box, she found sweets, and was surprised by such unexpected attention from the girl. A little later, the young lady was already heading in the direction where she noticed Damon, who seemed to be expecting her appearance. The guy, seeing the lady, noted that they hadn't seen each other for a long time, and the heroine asked if he had arrived before her. Damon announced that he had just arrived, and the lady thanked him politely for his attention, but could not understand why he was looking at her so intently. She wondered if she'd left a mark on her face. But Damon merely remarked that he'd sensed a change in the atmosphere and reminded her of her recent health problems. The girl realized how quickly rumors spread and said that she felt fine, to which the young man replied that it had worried him, but now he was glad that she was okay. The guy added that a room had been prepared for them and invited the lady to go ahead, demonstrating politeness and concern. He asked her if she often visited this establishment, to which the girl replied that she had only come here a few times. The young man then asked if he could make an order, wanting to recommend something to her, and the lady agreed. Serdel noted that Damon arrived before her and took care of everything in advance, demonstrating impeccable manners. The wine was brought as soon as she sat down at the table, and the girl realized that the young man had been waiting for their meeting, having thoughtfully prepared everything in advance. For the first time, she felt how subtle and attentive care could be, and she thought again about those who had surrounded her before. Serdel realized that even in games and in this crazy world, there are people who are focused only on their own interests. She realized that she had always been considerate of others, and understood why Damon was so popular. He was kind, well-mannered, and polite, but she felt he would never give her his heart, and she was not yet able to influence this. However, Serdel understood that Damon's power could help her strengthen her position and gain the support she needed. She also realized that the engagement was already broken, and now all that remained was to use all the information available to achieve her goal. The young lady assumed that the guy had probably already heard about the broken engagement, and this turned out to be true. Damon confirmed that he knew, and Serdel remembered that she had told him about it in the carriage, although she did not specify that the action had already been performed. The girl realized that she had laid all her cards on the table in front of him, but he seemed to be pretending not to understand the situation. The rumors have probably spread by now, but Damon doesn't discuss them lightly. His behavior is based on calculation. He had a strong inner wall, behind which hid a friendly smile and good manners, and first it was necessary to break through this defense. Serdel explained that the engagement had been broken off neatly, the rights to the Elbash forest had returned to her family, and the position of Count Mayant had passed into her hands. Damon approached the lady, offering to let him know if she wanted anything from him, showing willingness to cooperate. The girl realized that he had taken the bait and thought that Damon was most likely the Marquis's heir. He has two half-brothers, close in age but quite talented, which can create a certain competition and threat for him. This became especially significant after Damon's mother fell into a permanent sleep during his childhood. His stepmother became a marquise, and to impress those around him, Damon needed the rights to develop the Elbash forest. Serdel wondered what exactly she could expect from him and realized that the young man understood her capabilities. Damon assured that he would do his best and fulfill her every wish, demonstrating his full cooperation. Serdel was pleased with his answer and, smiling, raised her glass in agreement. She offered to rate how wonderful the dishes he recommended to her were, showing trust in his taste. Damon agreed and remarked that it was a great idea, watching her reaction with interest. When Serdell finished her meal, he asked if she liked the food, and the girl admitted that she was satisfied and was able to enjoy every bite. She decided it was time to get down to business, and placed an important document on the table, preparing to discuss serious matters. The girl explained that the information concerned the development of the Elbash forest and asked that everything be checked and, if necessary, additions be made so that she could then show the documents to her father. At this point, Damon asked if she wanted to hear his opinion on the materials presented. Damon nodded, agreeing with the previous discussions, and then delved into the documents again, assuring himself that it would take him a few days to thoroughly study them. Even a cursory glance at the papers showed that they were missing a great deal of important information, and much needed to be analyzed more thoroughly. The documents were drawn up by Count Mayont, and he clearly overlooked several critical points. Damon notes that the Elbash forest has unique characteristics, and its development requires a special approach. The young man also noted that they had a plan to drive out the monsters, but he could not name the exact time needed to implement it. He added that the main difficulty is the lack of information on the monster population. Any mistake could have serious consequences for nearby villages. Developing the area will not bring immediate benefits, so ordinary residents should not put themselves in danger for this endeavor. In the long term, the Count's reputation may also suffer, especially if the monster population turns out to be higher than expected. The main threat, in Damon's view, wasn't financial, but human? The young woman asked if he really meant human, and he confirmed it. If the magic stones can be obtained, the financial difficulties will be insignificant, but training a worthy knight requires a huge amount of time and effort. Such knights are more valuable assets than money, and even paying mercenaries won't save them if the number of monsters is too great, making Robusta's defense extremely difficult. The main character emphasized that without reliable security, the territory would become easy prey for anyone who decided to seize it. The young man admitted that she was right, adding that he might be exaggerating a little, although there had been similar cases in the history of the mining industry. Therefore, it would be wise to act on these lessons. The protagonist realized that there was no point in dwelling on fears, as such events had already happened. Count Mayent was to blame for everything when it came to the purity of the magical stones mined in the Elbash forest. The stones were incredibly pure, and similar specimens were extremely difficult to find elsewhere. Sensing an opportunity for profit, Count Mayent boldly demanded the right to trade in minerals. This request was more like a threat, since his lands bordered the county of Robusta, and the huge human losses weakened the territory's defense. The county was like a sandcastle, ready to collapse at any moment. Since Mayent went so far as to appeal to the imperial family, Count Robusta had no choice, and the enemy took advantage of their weakness. This time, the young lady was determined not to let him do something like that again. Damon, watching, noted the change in her gaze. He admitted that he would like to hear her opinion about himself and whether it was worth drawing up the documents and handing them over to her the next day. The young lady replied that there was no need for that. She was convinced by his reasoning, and she would convey it to her father. Damon nodded, taking this into account, and noted that he would now wait for the Count's response. After this, the lady stood up and offered to go, but the young man stopped her with a glance, declaring that he did not yet know what exactly she wanted. He stood up from his seat and walked over to Serdell, watching her reaction closely. Damon asked her to reveal her desires, but the young lady replied that their collaboration was just beginning. She compared the situation to wine. Drinking it too early will ruin the taste, but when it matures, she will tell it what she wants. The young man acknowledged this approach as unusual but interesting, noting that he was ready to wait and learn patience. He understood that his brothers could threaten his position, so it was important to act carefully. The main character realized that what she desired would only become available after Damon achieved the title of Marquis. She did not want to abuse her influence over other people, leaving everything to the natural course of events. Damon asked the lady to share her desires when he was ready, after which he kissed her hand and noted with a smile that the day had gone wonderfully. The young lady sat in the carriage, carefully examining the documents, and gradually realized that Mayant was far from the man he was thought to be. All the shady enterprises he had seized from Count Darien's did not satisfy his greed and ambition. She understood that the young man would hardly so easily pass up the opportunity to expand his influence and business, and this made her wary. The likelihood that he would take advantage of any loopholes and tricks seemed quite high, so the young lady tried to collect her thoughts and prepare for possible difficulties. After some time, the carriage drove up to the estate, and the girl got out, where she was immediately met by a maid who nodded welcomingly. She asked if everything had gone smoothly, and the young lady replied that yes, she had returned on time, and also asked if anything important had happened in her absence. The maid explained that nothing unusual had happened. The count had returned earlier than usual. Mr. Redon and Lady Addis also arrived. The count also announced that they would be having a joint dinner that day. He personally ordered the chef to prepare everything, and the young lady remarked that it was an important occasion, to which the maid, surprised, asked if that was indeed the case. The maid added that the chef, butler, and head maid were under a lot of stress because of the upcoming dinner. It had been a long time since everyone had gathered around the same table, and the atmosphere was tense. The young lady understood that this event was significant, and she needed to discuss something with her father. The maid also inquired about what the girl was holding. She explained that it was a gift to be opened, after which the maid examined it with interest and recognized it as pastries from Montlange. The young lady explained that the strawberry cakes were for herself, and there were also blueberry ones for her sister and special ones for her father and brother. She asked for the cake to be served with tea, and the maid agreed. The girl also asked me to tell her sister that she really liked the chocolate, and then she continued on through the house, feeling a strange acceleration of her heartbeat. She wondered why her sister had given her chocolate, which she ate with great appetite, and this filled her with a slight excitement. The maid only smiled at that moment and promised to convey that the lady was delighted. The young lady herself tried to hide her embarrassment, but the maid noticed that she was clearly a little confused, to which the girl replied that she was not embarrassed. The maid then entered Lady Addis's room and noted that she had not ordered anything, but Siri explained that Lady Serdell had brought some cakes from Montlange. She knew that Mrs. Addis did not particularly like sweets, so she chose a blueberry cake and offered to serve it with tea. Lady Addis was surprised that Serdell did it herself, and the maid confirmed it, adding that she also needed to tell him that she liked the chocolate. The blonde asked if that meant she had eaten the chocolate, and the maid was a little surprised, wondering if Lady Addis could really have that kind of expression on her face. She was sure the girl didn't even realize she was smiling. Addis tried to hide her smile and asked Siri to tell Serdell that she would eat the chocolate and meet him for dinner. The maid agreed and assured that she would definitely pass on the message. Smiling, she left, leaving Lady Addis alone with her thoughts and her cake. Looking at the dessert, the girl realized that she did not like sweets. Even the most exquisite cakes recommended by the Empress remained insignificant to her. Even the desserts served at receptions with the imperial family never attracted her attention. But this cake felt special because my sister had carefully chosen it, and this piece of everyday life brought back forgotten joys. The girl remembered how Serdell baked cookies with her mother and initially wanted to give them to her sister, which caused a warm feeling in Addis. The young lady smiled, barely holding back her tears, and finally ate the cake, enjoying every bite. After a while, her brother asked if everything was okay, and the girl asked why he hadn't come into the dining room. The guy replied that he wanted to know how she was feeling, to which the lady said that she was fine. He admitted that he had enjoyed the cake and tea, and that he had heard about her getting the dessert at Monlach. He also noted that there would probably be little left by lunchtime, and asked how she had managed to get it. The young lady remarked that he seemed to like these desserts and wondered where he got so much information. The guy explained that ladies often give him such treats, and the girl at that moment noted that he looked very attractive. He notes with surprise that this is the first time he has tried orange cake, and the taste pleasantly surprises him, and the main character agrees that it is truly pleasing. Afterwards, they headed to the dining room, where they were joined by their father and sister, creating the feeling of a full family gathering. The man repeats that the dessert the girl bought was incredibly delicious. At this point, the young lady's brother turns to his sister, asking if she received the same cake. He suggests that his sister probably didn't eat it because she doesn't like sweets. The protagonist realizes this is true, and her sister would definitely have refused such a treat. Then the young man clarifies what exactly the cake contained and says that if she doesn't want it, she can give it to him. However, the girl screams that she ate the cake herself, which surprises the whole family. Addis explains that she was able to do this because Serdell chose the cake, and it turned out to be tastier than all the other desserts. After these words, silence reigns for a while. Then the girl turns and suggests going to dinner. Redan notes that something is bound to happen, since his older sister dared to eat the whole cake. The main character remains surprised. A little later, as the meal draws to a close, the atmosphere becomes calmer. The young lady's brother comments that today's dinner was excellent and that the cook showed real talent. After this, they remain at the table with cups of tea, and the main character turns to her father, trying to attract his attention. The girl reminds her father that she has already spoken about her intention to introduce a suitable person. Today she met with Damon Spendar, and her words aroused the man's interest, who then turns to Serdell. The young lady wonders whether her father is going to refuse her, since she is also a full-fledged member of the Count's family. She's confident she has the right to do so, and takes the opportunity to remind everyone of her privileges. Then she turns to the maid. The girl submits the necessary documents, and the main character places them on the table in front of her father, emphasizing the importance of what is happening. The document came from Count Mayent and is a complete mess, containing development forecasts, possible damage, and even assessments of the father's position. Its content turns out to be extremely confusing and disturbing, making one think about the seriousness of the situation. However, the father advises his daughter to focus on the business side, considering her too emotional. The young lady counters that her assessment is entirely realistic and that her father also expects exactly the same conclusions. She understands that the imperial family will not help, and the situation gradually comes to light as the process progresses. After this, the girl notices that Mr. Damon, having looked at the documents, immediately discovered all the loopholes. The father turns to the butler and asks him to bring the papers from the office, to which he agrees without hesitation. The butler places several documents and explains that he was originally going to send them to Count Mayent, but now suggests that his daughter read them herself. The young lady looks through the papers and realizes that Damon did almost the same thing, noticing the similarity in their actions. The man at this point claims that, among other things, Count Mayent is focused solely on results, without taking into account the characteristics of the Elbash forest, which raises many concerns. He notes that Mr. Spender turned out to be not so bad and even showed his good side, since he once managed the deposit. Although the mine closed decades ago due to production restrictions, Damon's experience remains valuable and will be able to make a difference. The main character realizes that this wasn't the case in the game, which is why the solution was found so quickly. The man adds that, if she so chooses, she can resolve the issue through marriage. At this point, Addis exclaims that this is impossible, because Serdell has not yet recovered from the breakup of her engagement. He proposes marriage to Mr. Damon, explaining that it does not matter if he has any flaws, because his appearance attracts women even in its simple form. The father turns to Addis, asking if he asked her opinion, since Serdell has the right to make her own decisions. The girl replies that, as the heir of the family, she has the right to determine the fate of the Serdell marriage. But she believes that she shouldn't give her sister to Mr. Damon because a person deserves recognition for his good character, and he doesn't deserve it. Even Count Hirsch had failed to live up to expectations, and she had barely restrained herself from punishing him, so if the situation repeated itself after her engagement to Damon, Serdell's safety was not guaranteed. A brother approaches his sister and asks her why she doesn't calm down, trying to ease the tension that has arisen after discussing marriage. He also notes that he doesn't like Damon because it's difficult to understand what this young man with a constant smile on his face is thinking, despite his kindness to all women. The guy, however, has no intention of starting a relationship, which irritates him especially, as words spoken in this vein sound even harsher. He then asks if Serdell's mood has soured. When the young lady remains silent, he repeats his address, and then Serdal asks a question, wanting to understand what exactly the guy means. He asks if she really doesn't like this young man, to which Serdal responds carefully so that her words are not misunderstood by mentioning that she recommended Mr. Damon. Due to Damon's abilities, other family members begin to ask if this means she dislikes him, but the young lady only thinks to herself why they are so insistent on this, and claims that she does not feel any dislike towards him. The brother asks if this means she likes Damon, and the girl explains that she simply considers him a worthy partner for the family business. She realizes that she had anticipated the possibility of her words being misinterpreted, and this makes her smile slightly, making her wonder since when Serdal's life became the subject of such close attention. At this point, the father rises from the table, declaring that he understands their thoughts, but believes that he will have to personally contact Mr. Spendar. The main character also gets up from her seat and declares that she will go with him. Her brother approaches her, informing her that he does not approve of the chosen young man, expressing his dissatisfaction. The young lady's sister adds that one should not get involved with an arrogant person, and Serdal, shocked, wonders to himself if the cakes from Montblanche really have such an effect. She wonders what could have infuriated them so much and suggests they stop arguing so she can rest. The brothers agree, albeit with obvious displeasure. The boy reiterates his opinion of Damon's beauty, and the sister reminds the girl that it is important to value good character, suggesting that she remember this. Serdal just nods, thinking how absurd these conversations are, and after some time, the young man is already approaching the estate. He mentions that he hasn't seen Count Robusta for a long time, to which the man replies that he is glad to meet them. The young man confirms this with a smile, and the main character watches her father, who is cautious about Damon. The man invites the guy to sit down and look at the documents, which the young man picks up and carefully studies. Serdal notices that new conditions have been added to the documents, and this is the first time she has encountered them. Kartal asks the young man to show the documents to the Marquis, realizing that there is a lot of work to be done, although it is unknown how the situation will develop in the future. He is sure that the guy wants to deal with this on his own so that his family will accept him, because they have already encountered questionable partners and need a responsible person. The young man agrees and confirms that he understands what is being discussed. Father Serdal then points out that she recommended him, and the young man realizes the gravity of the situation. The father adds that the boy's brothers should not interfere, and Serdal understands that this is a warning about not dragging the family business into personal squabbles. The young man only smiles and thanks his father for his support, and the main character understands that the boy's true feelings are hidden behind his calm expression. Damon turns out to be quick-witted, and Serdal is glad that she doesn't have to explain how to act in this situation. After a short time, they leave the office, and the young man admits that he was nervous, but is glad that the Count received him positively. Serdal claims that he looked great, to which the young man admits that he was only pretending, hiding his emotions. He adds that the young lady looks different today, and at first his impression of her was cold, but now everything has changed. The guy notes that he can no longer take his eyes off the girl, and Serdal thinks that perhaps something pleasant happened to him before their meeting, because he seems pleased. The young man explains that he was lucky because of the girl's mistake with the carriage that day, and both realize that this really played a significant role. He thanks her for this, and believes that, thanks to her actions, he will have good luck in the future. Serdal replies that she will have luck too, thinking that this time everything is working out just great. The young man is a little surprised by her words, but soon smiles in response, feeling a pleasant mutual understanding. A little later, the girl knocks on her father's door, and he invites her in. She says she wants to go to the Elbash forest in 2 months, and her father asks if she understands all the dangers. Serdal confirms that she understands the risks, and the man only sighs, accepting her decision and realizing that this is her conscious choice. After some time, the girl quietly knocked on the door of her father's office, and he invited her in, watching her determined look. When Serdal entered, the man asked with slight concern what had happened, and the girl calmly explained that she also wanted to go to the Elbash forest in 2 months, despite all the difficulties. Her father asked her if she understood how dangerous it was, and Serdal confidently replied that she fully understood the risks associated with the upcoming trip. After these words, the man only sighed, accepting her conscious decision and realizing that his daughter was ready to face possible difficulties, realizing that her choice was thoughtful and serious. The young lady turned to her father, but he interrupted her with a question about her abilities and skills that could be useful in the expedition. He also emphasized that Addis was considered a master of the sword, and his opinion was significant, as if emphasizing the importance of each participant's skills. Radan, who has been training since childhood, asked what Serdal is capable of and how she could be useful on the expedition. He also asked if she had considered the possible obstacles and risks that might arise along the way. The girl was slightly surprised by her father's attentiveness, but then she explained that she wasn't taking this lightly and that her decision to go on the expedition had nothing to do with her broken engagement to Count Mayant. It was deliberate and considered. Having drawn up her own plan of action, the girl understood that she was prepared for such a reaction from her father and that her decision would not come as a surprise. At this time, the man was deep in thought, assessing the possible consequences, and the lady realized that she would not be able to protect herself, and the trip could seem risky. However, for the sake of the future and an important goal, she was determined to go, and the man was interested in where she got this information. The lady explained that she had been exploring the Elbash forest before she discovered the location of the Maltese stones, and that the area could be suitable for her purposes. If monsters had already settled here, then the conditions for their existence were ideal, and leaving these lands would be wasteful. The girl understood that this forest was rich in resources and seemed to fall under a magical spell, capable of restoring nature even after destruction. Even if there was devastation all around, the forest quickly came to life, and in its depths lurked a mystery that held a special power and something unique. The hidden secret lay in Radian's energy, which the girl felt and understood as an unusual and powerful force. This energy was previously in the possession of the second prince, who participated in the expedition as a representative of the imperial family and gained considerable influence through it. Now the lady intended to seize this power for herself, realizing that she could play a decisive role in the fate of the second prince, and that she also needed this power. She felt a little awkward, but she realized that Radian's energy was discovered in the Elbash forest, and the right of ownership of this territory belonged to their county. Her father asked if she was concerned about the forest's valuable resources, and whether her decision was truly dictated solely by that factor, since the guild had not been involved in studying the area. The lady replied that she had studied the documents that had been collected long ago and had been able to draw her own conclusions based on the volume of information that provided a solid basis for decisions. The man noticed that even the vassals did not dare to undertake such research, and this confirmed her courage and preparation. The girl explained that she understood his concern and that her desire to participate in the expedition could be a test, but the desire to go on the hike was still stronger. The lady assured him that she would not do anything that would put others in danger and asked him to trust her, as he had once trusted her in the matter of their engagement. The man noted that it was funny because it was impossible to be sure of anything in the world, and asked how she was going to guarantee the safety of others if she herself was in danger. He knew that trying to save her could lead to injury or even death, and so he wanted to know what strength she had to handle the expedition. He reminded that no one can predict the events that may occur in these places, and that the consequences may be most unpredictable. The lady confidently stated that despite the risk, she believed in her own protection and was sure that nothing bad would happen to her. She added that there is a special goal that must be achieved on this expedition, and that this is no less important than the trip itself. When her father asked what this purpose was, the girl explained that what she would receive would ensure her protection and help her cope with possible difficulties. The man repeated her words again, noting that perhaps she was seeing prophetic dreams again, and was surprised that she continued to follow them despite all her doubts. The main character wonders if he is talking about prophetic dreams, and wonders if Serdal had such an ability. After this, the man says that he allows her to go on an expedition, and there must be a reason for that. The young lady is then surprised by such a quick response. After which he bows and thanks his father, the man asserts that there is no need to bow his head over such trifles. After all, as she said, isn't she a member of the family? Alina, playing games, then wonders if he's talking about the prophecy, and she wonders if Serdel really sees the future in her dreams. But when she was playing the game, there was definitely no such information, and the girl is wondering if this is really the case. She understands that there was little information about Robusta, and the girl was the former fiancé of one of the main characters, that is, Count Mayent, and the younger sister of the brilliant knight Lady Addis. There were also practically no episodes in which she appeared, but the main character thinks this girl never showed up at all, and that Serdel disappeared when she broke off her engagement to Count Mayent. The girl also understands that among the secondary characters, she had the lowest status, and the girl learned this when she moved into her body as a young lady, in which her memories remained because even they are unstable. And if you think about it, there was something strange, and this problem is in Serdel's memories. 3 years ago, the girl felt discomfort when she transferred into this body, and the memories remained in pieces, and now the young lady understands that lately there have been no unpleasant sensations because her memories have not disappeared. But she wondered if there was any need to delve into the memories of this body. Serdel understands that the remaining information is sufficient, and if her memories were mixed with others, it would be even more unpleasant. And then the girl also understood that she was just a stranger who found herself in her body. A stranger, a visitor, a guest, and nothing more. She simply found herself in her body. Sometimes, when a girl absorbs the emotions left behind, she becomes very tense and fears she might lose herself. But now that she has been stuck in the game for 3 years, she has had to reboot it, and it is time to stop avoiding it and deal with it properly, especially if it's related to abilities. And now the main character closes her eyes, realizing that she first needs to determine what memories exist. The young lady realizes that she needs to delve deeper into them, and while she does, she discovers problems in places she had not previously suspected. These are memories from midwinter, when she was 5 years old, until midsummer when she turned 6. The girl then thinks what it is and what happened there, because she needs to try to remember it, and there should be at least some information, even if it's just a little. Then the young lady, shocked, remembered the accident. That winter, when the girl was 6 years old, Countess Robusta had fallen into eternal sleep. The main character thinks that this is an accident, but still wonders what it was, because she has no memories, and she has never thought so seriously about the absence of the Countess. The girl considered her to be a character who had already sunk into eternal sleep, and none of the family members ever mentioned her. Her bedroom door was always locked, and Serdel didn't even know when the anniversary of her immersion into eternal sleep was. The young lady realizes that she has never explored that period of time, and the countesses plunge into eternal sleep, as well as memory loss and then prophetic dreams. The girl also remembers the Duke's face and understands that perhaps the dream before the accident was prophetic. At the time, young Serdel was stunned and reported this. It was likely dismissed as the innocent babble of a child. And when the accident happened in reality, perhaps the shock led to memory loss. Now the girl understands that as a result, the ability to foresee could have disappeared, and if she had the opportunity to see the future, she would have been calmer. After all, even if she knows the original story, now a lot has changed, and it is more difficult for her now than before. The girl also remembers her father's face, but thinks that everything will be fine, after which she sighs. And she thinks quite a few things have happened. Then she receives a message from the system that the forcibly closed abilities and precognition have been unlocked. After which the young lady sees a dream about a man with red hair, and the young lady thinks who it is. This guy screams at the girl to step back, and the young lady thinks whether she should retreat. Well, she still doesn't understand why this is happening to her and also why he asks her about this. She also wonders why he has such a frightening aura. Well, her head isn't moving, and she can't see anyone else besides this man. So the young lady wonders why this man is even there. The man then tells Lady Serdel Robusta. She stepped back, and the young lady realized that this was the second prince, Fielden us Leighton. At this time, the guy just screams for her to step back and come to her senses, and the girl understands that she cannot move because she regrets moving away because she cannot even speak. However, the guy once again insists that she step back and uses her powers, and the girl understands that it is a beautiful blue light. And now she sees him. The man turns to the lady and asks where all the confidence has gone, which she usually demonstrates, after which she tells the girl to come to her senses because this does not suit her. He also hits the green forces and tells them to be patient for a while and not to be afraid. After all, he will soon save her. At this point, the young lady's dream ends and she opens her eyes, after which he realizes that he is now in his room and wonders if it was really a dream. But it was too realistic to be just a dream. The girl also thinks why there is such a fog in her head and goes outside. The young lady thinks that something has changed, and usually she would just decide that it was a dream, but after those words from her father about whether she began to have prophetic dreams again. She is sure that if this were an ordinary dream, she would have forgotten it when she woke up, but everything becomes clearer, as if it were fixed in her consciousness. The green mist that enchanted her, and the overwhelming power. This is the phenomenon that occurs after absorbing Radian's energy. But the girl wonders why the second prince was there, and why he tried to save her. But it's difficult to understand the situation from just a few scenes. The girl understands that if this is a prophecy, then she must have arrived separately from the second prince, and there seems to be no sign that she met with the original owner of Radian's energy. Judging by the atmosphere, she managed to get there first, and the girl wonders if the power from the original story brought him there. And the guy can take over the power, but it seems unfair. So the main character then wonders who got Radian's power. But the second prince interfered with its absorption, and if, as a result, the green fog chose its master, what should she do if it is not her? Now the young lady is in shock and wondering why she even needed to wake up, and she was supposed to watch the dream through to the end. But at that moment, the girl's relatives entered the room. Addis then turns to Serdell, and her brother asks what she's thinking. The maid is also a little worried about her mistress. The main character then asks what is going on and why her brother has been acting like this since this morning. And the young man is just wondering why she is so calm, because she is going on an expedition. After which he screams out, "Does this really make sense?" And the main character claims that he speaks too loudly, so let him be quieter. And her father had already given his permission for this. The boy then cried out in shock. Could her father have really gone crazy to send such a fragile girl on an expedition? Addis also turns to Serdell, after which she claims that the Elbash forest is very dangerous. And of course she knows about it. But it is more dangerous there than she can imagine, and the girl never knows what can happen in the forest. The main character then asks if they think that the father immediately agreed, and the girl asks what she is talking about. And the main character replies that she doesn't think her father could simply remain silent. The girl also understands. She doesn't want to tell the person who cares about her so much, but given how their relationship has changed recently, if she doesn't tell him directly, she won't be able to go. The young lady then asks if they still haven't heard the reason for her trip, and asks if she's right. The young lady's sister claims she's explored the Elbash forest extensively. Serdell merely claims she had a dream, to which her sister is shocked. The protagonist then repeats that she had a dream, and she realizes that since her heartless father was shocked, this ability must have hurt them, because the results of ignoring her words was her mother falling into eternal sleep. Serdell understands that she needs to go through this at least once to avoid limitations in the future, and she doesn't like to feel the pain of others. Addis then asks if Serdell had a dream. However, seeing how worried he is, his sister asks what's wrong with her and what's so strange about it. But then the guy realizes what could have happened and claims that it can't be. The young lady merely looks at them confidently, while the other two remain stunned. But Addis eventually comes to his senses. Then, in shock, he grabs the young lady and asks if she's okay. The main character looks at her. She asks her sister what it is, but she only shakes. The girl remembers how her younger sister screamed about it, that mom shouldn't go and that it was dangerous because the carriage would tip over. But the woman told the girl not to worry. After all, everything will be fine and nothing will happen. And if Mom doesn't go, there will be no one to celebrate Grandpa's birthday, so she asked if Serdell understood. However, the little girl then said again that the carriage would turn over and there would be bad guys inside. Addis told Serdell to stop and claimed that she would play with her because the girl loved fencing. The brother also approached the young lady and asked if she wanted her mother to take her with her. The father then took the baby in his arms and claimed that it seemed Serdell did not want to say goodbye. But even on ordinary days, she searches the entire mansion in search of her mother. The young lady then claimed that everything was wrong and that she had seen it in a dream, after which the girl, with tears in her eyes, once again spoke about the bad guys. However, her mother told her not to cry because she would send a gift that their baby loved, and so she should just wait a little. A little while later, the servant, already in shock, turned to the master and then asserted that the lady's carriage overturned and she was attacked and kidnapped and they pursued the criminal, but there were no traces, after which they discovered only the undead body of the countess. The man looked at this in shock, and Addis couldn't believe it. Then tears started to flow from her eyes, and the girl only screamed desperately. She was filled with rage and guilt. Her emotions were mercilessly spilling out. The girl then screamed in shock that they should have listened to Serdell and should not have let their mother go, because if they had only listened to her, this would never have happened. The disaster came suddenly, and peaceful life was destroyed in an instant as if it had never existed. One day, Addis approached her brother and claimed that she had heard that he was not attending the classes for the heirs, and also asked how a person who would become the head could behave like that. The young man then asked if she was saying that he would become the head, and asserted that the heir must be a powerful genius. And what's the point if he has to hand over everything? You see, won't he be the same as his father and take a place where he won't even be able to protect a loved one? The girl then screamed her brother's name in shock, after which she insisted that he watch his words. And the guy only claimed that she could lose someone again, and if someone else were to fall into eternal sleep. Then he will take the life of everyone who catches his eye, and then he himself will leave this world. The girl then looked at her brother in shock, and the young man only asserted that if she dared, she could become the head of the family, even if there was no one else. He claimed that he had informed his father about this, and he had said that he would hand over the place of heir to the young lady, and perhaps because it would be better that way. The girl then approached one of the butlers and asked what was wrong with Serdell. The man claimed that the girl had accepted the eternal slumber of her mistress or Janet, but she had remained silent all these days. Addis said that this is how it was, after which she claimed that she would stay with her for a short time. The girl then entered the baby's room and spoke to her, but Serdell sat as if she hadn't heard anything. Addis claimed that she came because she needed to clarify the situation and what the girl said then, but the little girl then turned to her sister and asked what it meant and what she said. The maids then claimed that the lady said that she did not remember what she said that day, and they called a doctor for her and also took her to the temple, but it was of no use. And no problems were found. As a result, she lost her memory, and perhaps this is a blessing for the young lady. And now Serdell's talking about his dream again, the most painful memory. Now the main character thinks that Addis has such an expression on her face, after which she says that she is fine and understands that they do not need to worry because she does not have these memories and she did not experience this personally. At this time, Addis asks if Serdell really needs to go there, and the main character claims that there is what she needs and there is what she wants to protect. The girl then repeats the words that she wants to protect them and agrees, after which she states that since she was also going to take part in the expedition, she allows her to do so, but let the young lady not leave her side for even a second. Her brother is only surprised by such words, and in shock he asks if his sister is really giving Serdell her permission, because didn't she come there to stop her, so why did he change his mind? And why does she do this, and is there any point to it at all? He also asks if she's crazy, and the main character understands. It will be more difficult to move around with Addis, but she is no longer going to give up. At this time, the young man swears and then declares that he will also go on this damn expedition. At this time, Addis turns to the young lady and tells her to eat something tasty, to which the girl agrees, and after they leave, the main character sighs heavily and then thinks that it's as if she was run over by a truck. But then someone else turns to the lady and asks where she is planning to go. It turns out to be the maid, and she resolutely declares that she will go with her. Then the young lady asks what she said, and Siri repeats once again that she is going to go to the Elbash forest, to which the young lady is even more surprised. And she wonders why the maid is acting like this again. Meanwhile, Siri insists that she'll do everything she can to help her and go too. The main character then thinks about what to do with this girl, after which she asks why she wants to go. After all, an expedition isn't about wielding a formidable weapon, and it will be very difficult. The maid is shocked afterward, and she asks how the mistress knew about the fork. Well, the main character then asks if the maid thinks she knows nothing about it, since she knows everything. After all, when she clung to Count Mayant, and when she recommended Mr. Damon as a business partner, the whole time the girl kept the tree in her apron pocket. The young lady also understands that the maid couldn't have poked him, because that would have been bad for Serdell. Meanwhile, the maid turns to her mistress, a little puzzled, but the girl only asks if Siri is ready yet. Using a fork would be so stupid. After which the young lady asserts that she appreciates Siri's zeal, but they need a real knight. The maid is then a little surprised, and the main character claims that now she wants to take a bath and eat, after which Siri confirms. She quickly prepares bath, water, and food, and then runs off. Meanwhile, Addis heads down the hallway, his steps quickening. She finds herself on the street and understands that in the end she allowed her sister to go and wants to do what she wants. The young lady also remembers the prophetic dream, after which she wonders if Serdell's lost memories have returned, and that thanks to the maids, she did not see her mother's body. But still, that situation was a nightmare, and now the girl spoke about this dream with indifference on her face. But she wonders if it was to hide the returned memories or the ability. Edis also thought she couldn't ask. The girl was also afraid to hear the words about her mother falling into a crippling sleep because of her sister. And now Edis understands that she really wants to run away, but still, she can't. The girl also understands that she needs to come to her senses, and even if she does, she doesn't want to regret anything anymore. Serdell said that she has something that she wants to protect, and she didn't notice how this little girl grew up. Therefore, the girl thinks that this time she will definitely protect this child, and for this she needs to discipline the knights before the expedition. Then a maid comes around the corner and the two collide. Siri immediately asks if it's Lady Addis, after which she says she's sorry and apologizes, then claims she wasn't paying attention. Addis replies that everything is fine, then asks where she's rushing to, realizing it's Serdell. The girl with pink hair at this time turns to Lady Addis, and then immediately falls to the floor, and he cries out that he wants to ask her for a favor. Addis is a little surprised by this. And a few days later, the main character realizes that she hasn't dreamed anything for a long time. But if this continues, she will not be able to find out who received Radion's energy. The young lady also thinks what to do, because she saw the future and cannot allow the second prince to take away her power. But he is carrying out the emperor's order and must soon leave the forest, and she just needs to prevent the prince from visiting that area, after which the main character turns to Siri and asks if she is there, but then the maid does not answer. Then the girl wonders where she went. After that, the main character heads outside and continues her thoughts. The girl understands that setting a trap is too difficult. If she tries to do everything herself, it could become dangerous. There are too many variables in the Elbash forest, and it will be problematic if they are caught during this. The young lady understands that it is difficult to ask for help from Kartal, Addis, or Radan. If she informs them of the situation, they will help her, but they will object to absorbing the energy and will most likely say that they will absorb it themselves. Then the main character notices that someone is training and realizes that the knights have been working since early morning. After which she also thinks whether she should use the Imperial Knights, but still thinks that no, and it will be difficult for them to act. Since it is a matter of containing the second prince, the young lady is also wondering if there is another way to help solve the problem without causing harm to the family. At this time, someone addresses the lady and the main character thinks how familiar this voice is. It turns out it's the maid, and she runs up to her mistress, saying she's woken up early. But the young lady only asks if it's Siri. The pink-haired girl apologizes, claiming she forgot about the time and needs to go to the market. The main character says everything is fine, then asks what she's doing. The maid claims she's developing her sword skills. The protagonist then asks why she's doing this. Siri replies that she told the lady she would also go to the Elbash forest, and to do that, she needs to get stronger. The main character then wonders if training will really get her to the forest. And the maid only asks if the mistress has thought about how strong she will soon become. And she won't be able to become stronger right now, but after the expedition she wants to help the lady for a long time. The girl also claims that the lady saved her every time, and she only received help. That's why she wants to help the lady. When she finds herself in such a situation, and she will become her ideal, then fut. The maid also states this so that she can repay her for her kindness. The main character then asks what she just said, and the girl claims that she will repay the kindness, but the young lady asks what she said a little earlier, and the maid asks if the mistress is talking about the perfect sword, after which the young lady realizes that it just dawned on her. The way to stop the second prince without harming their family was so close. A short time later, they all find themselves in the city, and one of the servants remarks that there are so many people there. The young lady then asks Togo not to be so happy, as they didn't come there for fun, to which the young man replies that the lady shouldn't worry. Siri then asks why Tara is following them, and the guy replies that the lady called him too. After which, the maid asks what business the mistress has in such a place in the main game, and she claims that she needs to find someone. After which he sees in the newspaper that he is here, and asks Tara to remember this face, because after the battle let him immediately go to the waiting room and grab him. The guy only agrees after that. Much time later, they find themselves in the arena, and one of the men declares that now the ladies and gentlemen will see what they've been waiting for. The entire battle will begin right now. The maid then claims that this is her first time in the arena, and that it's interesting. And Tara claims that if you look more closely, it becomes even more interesting. At this time, the man announces that the first battle begins right now, after which the bets begin, and the main character states that she will bet 20 gold on the skinny guy. The young man then turns to the young lady and claims that this is reckless, and the maid claims that she will also bet 5 silver on the skinny guy, because his body seems quite strong, and this huge guy looks stupid. The young man then also claims that he will put 1 coin on the skinny one, and the main character understands that it looks like this guy is spineless, but then she looks at the newspaper and realizes that the man is going to be in the final battle, and last time he didn't lose a single battle for 2 weeks, and he left the audience in awe. This guy is Edward Blaine. At this time, the young man is just sitting in the waiting room, and then someone asks if this is really a new guy who just joined today. He looks so skinny and weak, so what's the point in even trying? However, another guy tells his friend not to look down on him. After all, even though the young man looks like this, he is popular among mercenaries, and it seems his name is Blaine, and he does not know where this guy came from, but his skills are outstanding. Another man then asks why such a wonderful man would take part in such a war, since only monsters gather there, and his friend replies that he doesn't know and thinks the guy needs money. For some reason, he refused assignments and simply left, and because of that, no one hires him. As a result, the guy ended up in this place. The man then says he's sure the guy looks at them all with a smile. Then he turns to the new guy, and he says that today will be his opponent. He also claims that he is the champion, so let him remember that. A little while later, someone announces that the winner of this battle is One-Eyed. The maid tells the lady they've won again, and the guy asks where the heat is. He insists he definitely started with 1 coin, but now there's a whole bag of them. He also addresses the lady and says that from this day forward, she is his goddess. And the protagonist understands that this is because she has memorized the winners and losers. Meanwhile, the maid approaches the lady and claims she thinks she'll soon become rich, and that when the mistress marries, she'll buy her a wedding dress. The main character then wonders if she's really so dependent on betting, after which she turns to Siri and Tara and tells them to listen carefully, after which she asks them to remember that they won this money thanks to her, and she will not go to this place again. So let them not even think about coming there without her. So the maid asks if they can't come tomorrow because she wants to buy a wedding dress for her mistress, and the guy says it would be great to go back there. The main character insists she doesn't need to buy a dress and asks if she should forbid them from going outside. The girl also thinks that maybe she shouldn't have brought them here, but then someone is looking at her. It turns out to be a young man with amber eyes. Meanwhile, the show's host announces that the final battle and long-awaited finale will now take place. The first participant to enter is a newcomer who has challenged the champion. The lady sees the guy. They're a little embarrassed because he's very handsome. Then one of them shouts out that they're betting 50 gold coins on the guy with silver hair, and his face has already won. The main character realizes it's Edward, and he's finally appeared. The young lady realizes he looks more dangerous in reality. Although he is beautiful, he does not at all look like a person who is trying to survive. At this time, the young man looks at the main character, and she is a little surprised, after which she thinks that their eyes really just met. But this cannot be. After which she just remains silent, while the host claims that this guy is a newcomer who has challenged the champion and asks if they will see the birth of a new legend today. The man with red hair asks if he is talking about a new legend because it is just funny, because the guy will become the basis of his story, just like the other brats he defeated. After which the host announces that the battle has begun. The man with red hair asks if the guy is going to respond, but he didn't like him from the very beginning. After which he takes the sword out of its sheath and wants to hit the guy. However, Edward dodges this. His opponent then says what a rat this guy is and kicks him. The young man holds back this attack, and his opponent asks if he even knows how many times he has crushed such brats. Edward doesn't answer her, but glares menacingly at his opponent. A cry immediately comes from the audience, declaring that the champion is doing well, so he should continue. And the guy decided to run away out of fear. The champion then claims that he thought the guy would be difficult to handle, but he's nothing special. Edward then again does not answer anything, and the servant then turns to the lady and asks if this is the guy she is looking for. After all, he doesn't seem very capable. The main character understands that this is impossible, and if we're talking about skill, Edward could defeat his opponent in one blow, but he doesn't look like he's in a difficult situation. The Edward she knows will break his opponent's neck just by holding his breath. The man with red hair then looks at the guy furiously and doesn't even seem out of breath. The maid claims the battle is engaging, and even as a rookie, the man seems quite experienced. Another woman asks if this is just a show for show. After all, he had heard that people deliberately create tense situations when the skill gap is too great. To prevent the battle from ending too predictably, someone in the audience then cries out, "How long is the champion going to stall for time? Let him just finish already." But then the man looks at this guy, and he realizes he doesn't look tired at all. Then, from the audience, there are cries of wondering why he can't beat the newcomer. After which the champion screams that it's enough to mess around, and they'll finish this now. After which he runs at the guy, and he cries out that he can't lose, and that victory is his. Well, then he just runs past the guy. After which he sees what he had on his nose earlier, and the champion asks when he managed to do it. Everyone in the room is surprised and claims that they didn't even see the guy pull out the sword. The champion then turns to Blaine and screams if this guy even knows who he is. Well, when he is about to say something, he feels a very sharp pain in his legs, and then falls. And the young man just puts his sword back in its sheath and says that he can't stand because he cut the tendons, and the cut is not very deep and will also heal if the guy rests a little. But if he gets up now, it could be the last moment of his life. The presenter is also very surprised then, after which he cries out that the fight for the championship title is over, and an unknown young man defeated the best warrior. The guys only turn around afterward, and the hosts claim it wasn't a new champion they'd witnessed being born. And today, a new chapter of history was written. Everyone then began to support Blaine. And the main character then turns to Tara and claims that the time has come, after which he agrees. But when the guy is about to leave, someone comes up to him and asks where he is going in such a hurry. The main character is a little surprised, and this guy then takes off his hood and says that they haven't met for a long time. It turns out to be His Majesty the Second Prince. The young lady then bows and greets him, but the guy claims that there is no need to observe formalities in such a place, and aren't they there to have fun? The young lady also sees that the room is empty, and the guy probably noticed the aristocrats, recognized the second prince, and ran away. The guy with red hair at this time claims that, watching this from the sidelines, he felt like a loser for the first time, and that the girl must have made a fortune. Although he also earned a little, the young man then claims that he never thought that she had such an intuition, and he's genuinely surprised, though he shouldn't be. The heroine then gets a little angry. Well, she claims she was just lucky. Then she wonders why the second prince came there. Was he really there to flirt, or was he pursuing the same goal as her? At this time, the man claims that the last participant was amazing, and the main character wonders why he is changing the subject. The red-haired young man claims that people who don't know anything might think that he's just doing well, but his moves were unique and this guy was able to impress the public. After which, His Highness turns to the young lady and asks her what she thinks. The heroine, with a smile on her face, replies that it was wonderful. The second prince then wonders if it was just a nice thing and the guy was cute, but he's asking if that's all. He thought her opinion would differ. Serdell understands that she must end this conversation because she cannot let Blaine go. After which, the girl turns to Tira and asks what he is doing because let the guy check everything. To which he agrees and leaves. The emperor then asks if the young lady is comfortable with this. After all, girls usually don't come to the arena, and they say that it's a dirty activity. After which he asks if the reason is that her sister is Addis Robesta, but Lady Serdell will also take part in the expedition. He wants to learn so much, so he suggests they have tea together when she's free. Serdell realizes this guy is arrogant and resembles a city government tycoon. Even though the prince is the main character whom she must seduce in order to reach the finale, she has no desire to obey. Therefore, now she apologizes to His Highness and claims that she is neither her subject nor a close friend. Therefore, she hopes that he will not forget about the etiquette that she must observe. The girl also claims she has urgent business to attend to, so she'll go. She then claims she was glad to meet him, even if only briefly. The young man then smiles and says that if the lady is busy, then nothing can be done and it's a pity, but he won't detain her. Serdell claims that they will meet soon anyway, and His Highness says that she can go. After which the maid turns to the lady and tells her to go there, and when the main character leaves, he thinks she shouldn't turn around under any circumstances. When the girl leaves, His Highness turns to one of the servants, and he tells him to find out where the lady went from the meadow, and also let him find out more about the guy with silver hair. After all, this man isn't the kind to rot in the arena. The main character and the maid then head towards the guy. Serdell wonders if she is late, because she was too late. At this point, the servant turns to the lady and says she's arrived. The girl then wonders what the atmosphere is like there and what happened, after which she turns to Tire and tells him to stand there, and Siri too. The servant then cries out that there's no way, and she doesn't know what she's doing. However, the main character tells them not to approach, it's an order. The maid then turns to her mistress, a little worried, but Serdell tells them not to worry, because she is a lady from a noble family, so she will definitely not act recklessly. The servants then exchange glances, and the young lady approaches the young man. He then asks what's going on, and the young lady, looking at him, understands that he cannot be trifled with, but she must make him hers. Edward Blaine now uses the alias Blaine. He is the second son of an earl whose territories are located in the southwestern part of the kingdom of Yaredin. He is a fallen aristocrat who lost everything after losing the war. He is also a minor character who entered into eternal sleep quite early on, and illustrations featuring him were added to the original story. Edward proved to be quite an influential figure, and most likely, he had more power than Serdell, the body she's in. The girl understands that this guy has fought in various battles and is therefore immune to conventional tactics, and she thinks she should tell him outright that she wants to make him hers. And you also need to lower your guard and arouse interest, after which the girl throws a bag of coins at him. The young man then grabs it, but then realizes that it is heavy and there is much more in it than what is given as a reward. Serdell claims that she was very lucky today and she won a lot of gold coins and gives them to him, but she wants the guy to help her in return. Edward then asks why she's giving him such a sum, and the young lady understands that among all his achievements, the most notable is the development of the Elbash forest. Edward went mad and defeated a large number of monsters on his own, though he quickly fell into eternal slumber. For some time afterward, legends circulated about him among mercenaries. Therefore, it would be a pity if such a warrior were to plunge into eternal sleep, just as their girlfriend claims that she needs his village. Serdell understands that if he joins them, it will greatly help you in mastering or sopadam. Now she claims that she wants her life to be safe. The young man then asks if she is talking about an escort, because if so, then let her leave, because he cannot stay in one place. However, the young lady asks if he will believe her if she tells him why he needs this money. But the guy asks who they are not needed for, especially in such a place, and no matter what she offers, he will not accept it. Serdell understands that everything is like in the past, because he refuses all offers, but she knows what will make him change his mind, and this is the man Edward is looking for. So now she's claiming it will be hard for him to refuse, and the guy asks if that's really true. After which the main character claims she can find his sister. The young man immediately grabs his sword, but the young lady insists that he shouldn't do that if he doesn't want to get hurt. After which, the guy sees a magic scroll in her hands and realizes that it has a danger detection spell cast on it that is activated when he attacks. After which, the young man asks who the hell she is. The dark lady claims to be Serdell Robesta. She is also the daughter of Count Robesta and has an ability that only her family knows about. After which, she asks the guy if he'll believe her if she says this gift brought her to him. The young man then asks what she's talking about. And Serdell claims that maybe this sounds absurd, but then how would she have found him? It is also known that he is looking for his younger sister, so let him believe her, because with the help of this ability, he will be able to find out where his sister is. After which, she also addresses him by his real name. The boy realizes at this point that this whole situation happened because his father was deceived by a close friend. One day, one of the servants told the boy that he should not go there because Count Blaine had fallen and they said that the enemy had beheaded the master and was heading there. The young man then asked in shock if his father had been defeated, after which he cried out that no, and that he had to go. But the servant cried out that the countess and the first son had also fallen into eternal sleep, so the young master should not go there. But the guy then screamed out where Lara was, but the servant screamed again that he couldn't go there because the lady was in captivity, and they said that the enemy army had already advanced far, and the southwest of Yarden no longer belonged to the Blaines. So the boy turned to the young master and insisted that they should run, at least to save himself. But the young man still answered no, and in the end, the war was lost, and the price for it was terrible. The boy's family was gone, and his only sister was sold into slavery before he could save her. He had no money, so he hid his name and status and wandered the world trying to find his sister. Someone said she might have fallen into a crippled sleep, but he refuses to believe it, and he did everything in his power, and also earned money and wherever he could and did everything he could. As soon as he heard the news about his sister, he ran there but found only emptiness. And after a long time, he no longer knew who he was, and this girl says that she will find his sister. And also that he knows him, so now he doesn't even know what to say, but then he asks what needs to be done. And the main character understands that she succeeded, after which she states that now she cannot explain in detail and hopes that he will help her. After all, if the guy agrees, then she will find his sister within 20 days, and if she cannot do this on time, then their agreement will be invalid. Then she will pay him twice as much as she does now, as compensation for wasting his precious time. But she also claims she has conditions. The guy then asks what they are. The young lady then says that, firstly, he shouldn't ask about her ability, and secondly, not to talk about it. The girl realizes that perhaps he realized that she sees the future and she needs to share her secrets to win his trust. Serdell also says that there is nothing to think about and it is just a deal, so if he agrees, then let him shake her hand. The young man then looks at the young lady's hand and remembers his sister and then asks, will she really be able to find his sister? To which the young lady replies that she promises. And she claims that she can create a new identity for him if he wants, and the guy can find his little sister while he does his job. The young man then claims that many people wanted to get their hands on him. There were noble ladies who said they would do anything in the world for him, but there's never been anyone like her. After which the young man gets down on one knee and, bowing, affirms that his little sister is the last family member he has left, and the girl must find her. But he doesn't need money, so he asks her to find his sister at any cost. After all, then he, Edward Blaine, would gladly become her sword. But if she can't find his sister, she should be prepared for the consequences. The main character then wonders if he is throwing around threats that won't work. After which she asks if he needs time to think, to which the guy replies, no, and he will accept her offer and will also do everything in his power while she is looking for her sister. After which the main character extends her hand and says that it's good. And then their contract is concluded. After which she also asks the guy to take care of her, to which he agrees and shakes her hand. A little while later, the young lady returns to the palace and realizes that he is still the young master. He also looks great in these clothes. The girl understands that she first needs to introduce him properly. After which, she goes into her father's office and he asks if they've arrived, to which she replies yes. But she still thinks, how am I supposed to introduce this guy? The young lady's father then looks at the silver-haired boy and remains silent, and the guy does the same. After which Kartal claims he wants to believe the girl has reasons for such actions. And as long as she's safe, everything's fine. The main character then wonders if it's really that simple, considering she didn't even say anything, after which she asserts that this will never harm her or their family. And the young lady wonders if the man really thinks she had another prophetic dream. After which she also looks at her sister and thinks how she thinks, but then asks if this is really the guy who participated in the fights in the arena. And the main character is a little surprised. After which she asks how the girl found out about this. Addis then claims that the second prince said that he saw her there, and he did not forget to mention that she took one person whom she was watching with interest. Addis also claims that she has yet to figure it out, but judging by the energy he emits, this guy has very good skills. And the girl most likely wants to take him to the Elbash forest, to which the main character agrees. Addis then agrees and says that since she is also involved in this, she must have a plan. But she still extends her sword to the guy and claims that he should better keep in mind that if he does even the slightest harm to her sister, his head will fly off his shoulders. The guy then insists he won't cause any problems. The girl says they'll see what happens in the future, after which she also tells the guy not to dare in front of her sister if he doesn't want his pretty face to wrinkle. And even better, he shouldn't even look at her, or better yet, shouldn't create a weird atmosphere. The main character then turns to her sister and says that she must be tired, but says that she has a request, to which the girl responds. The main character then asks her sister to check on Siri. The maid is a little surprised, and the girl remembers how she asked Siri if she had learned the basic stance of an imperial knight in half a day and defeated the knight she introduced to her. The girl also claimed that, frankly speaking, it was amazing, and she thought that the maid would not last longer than one day, but she managed to do a great job. And it seemed that chatty idiot Tara had taught her better than she thought. After which the girl handed the maid the sword, and he told her to stand up straight. However, when Siri did so, Addis said it wasn't so bad, after which she offered to test her skills. Then the battle began. The maid tried her best, but she still received blows, and now, with shaking legs, she is still trying to resist Addis. The main character realizes that Siri has been holding on for 10 minutes already, and Addis claims that she is doing well. and it's hard to believe that so little time has passed since she learned to hold a sword. And Adias then realizes that the maid is watching the trajectory of her sword, and this girl is learning frighteningly quickly. That's why she now claims that she didn't think she would have to use force. Then she begins to use it to her advantage, and the main character realizes that the energy is so strong that it is even difficult to breathe. Edward then covers her, and the girl realizes that it has become easier, but then she looks at Siri with concern. Well, at that very moment, the power of her sister also flies at the girl, and the maid immediately takes off. After which he protects the lady with his body and falls to his knees and asks if she is okay. Addis then turns to Siri and says that she protected Serdell even though she knew she would not harm her sister, and that this is a virtue that a noble knight should possess. After all, you need to be more careful and attentive than your master. And after all, the girl is a knight who is distinguished by talent and devotion. The maid then smiles and turns to the lady, and she thinks why she is doing this again. Addis then says that Siri likes it, and she will entrust the training of this child to the vice captain, so it is worth starting with the basics. And if she continues her studies, she could earn a knighthood. The main character then wonders if Siri is really that talented. And the maid then kneels and thanks the mistress, after which she asserts that she will work hard. Serdell understands that she has just changed a little, but so many things are different now, after which she congratulates her with a smile on her face. However, the guy next to her only frowned after this. A little while later, the young lady's father made a statement. It seems that recently she has become increasingly interested in the affairs of the estate. The young lady then does not even know what to say, and understands that she was too excited, but this worried her and was watched very closely. At this time, the man claims that the mistress of the estate should deal with this, and since she is not available, these issues are resolved by Addis's successor or her assistant, after which the young lady realizes that he is right. And he asks for forgiveness, but the man claims that Addis was initially just an imperial knight, so she spent a lot of time outside the estate. Serdell then thinks about what he wants to say by this, and the man claims that Radon doesn't care about such things at all since he is also often absent. But he couldn't do this because he was busy with the estate's affairs, and he claims that this is irresponsibility on his part. But previously, Monem, the butler, and his deputy were responsible for the estate's operations. The protagonist then reflects on this and realizes that Monem is the one in charge. She is the maid who has served the Robusta family the longest, and she thought that the woman had resigned from her position as head maid and had no idea that she had been running the mansion ever since. Now the young lady is wondering what this feeling of discomfort and some kind of anxiety is, as if emotions are locked in the body. But she definitely took care of her since childhood. The man insists they don't show it, but such work must have been taxing. But the young woman then thinks something else is important, and her father claims that they are waiting for the time when they can rely on her and they know how smart the girl was as a child, after which he hands the young lady a card with something on it and claims that it is a list of people and an accounting book, so now she's responsible for them, and he entrusts her with the management of the mansion. The man also turns to Serdell Robusta, and he tells her to do everything possible in this position because he believes that she will succeed. After which, the main character, with a smile on her face, tells her father to rely on her. The man then smiles and wishes her luck. After that, he goes out onto the balcony. But then someone approaches the gentleman. It turns out to be the maid, and she claims she thought he'd like some warm tea. Then he asks if he'd like a drink. The man insists that Monem is always on time, and the woman asks if she hasn't served him since he was a child. After which, the count asks her to keep an eye on Serdell and also check whether she remembers the events of that day. The man also understands that it seems that at the moment only the ability to foresee has returned, but if a girl hides her feelings, then he doesn't even know what to do. She must have been upset with her terrible father. The maid then tells her master not to worry too much, and she claims that she will take care of the young lady and everything will be fine, after which the man agrees and says that everything will definitely work out. That same evening, the main character sighs heavily and realizes that she didn't think the estate would be so much work. But there is a very long list and many reports, as well as 1,000,000 letters from people who want to take a piece of the Elbash forest. Therefore, the girl understands that it is not surprising that the tasks were divided between several people. The young lady also thinks that everyone should be banned from singing. No official study has been conducted yet, so it won't help her. There were also fewer envious families due to the removal of the father from the Forest Development Department. The situation in the surrounding areas is very strange, so the residents' anxiety has increased. And the young lady thinks that problems will arise if they do not act at the right time, so they cannot rush and give cause for worry. The girl also understands that probably a lot of invitations arrived at the Spendar family estate, because someone is throwing dirt into clear water. The girl also hopes that Damon won't do anything strange, and understands that she needs to be careful. Therefore, she will send a person to find out about everything, and she is also thinking that this sum will be enough for Rudella's wedding. And the main character understands that this maid was 11 years old when she came to them. Rudella worked there for 15 years, and Monem told them to make a decision about the money for Rudella's wedding. After all, the girl claimed she wanted to quit her job after marriage and work part-time. The main character then said that she would include her severance pay in this amount, which surprised the woman a little. And the young lady wonders why Monem was so surprised, and she thinks that the girl is leaving to get severance pay, but for this money, quitting your job at the estate is a little strange. The main character understands that she doesn't have to leave the estate, but she refuses a job that will be difficult for her to get in the future, and this means that she simply needs money. Sardell understands that Rudella's fiancé has been working in the Robin's Trade Guild for more than 10 years, and he could have many reasons for such an act. So the main character says she'll ask Monem to check everything. And now she's yawning. And she thinks that she needs to get some sleep because she was so tired while looking at the accounting books. After which the young lady falls asleep right on the table. Edward is behind the door, and she still frowns. The next day, the girl wakes up and realizes she overslept, and yet she has a ton of work to do. So there's no time for sleep, and she needs to come to her senses. Afterwards, the young lady washes and changes clothes. He sits down at the table again and asks where she stayed yesterday. The assistant butler turns to the lady and confirms that they have prepared breakfast and that the master is waiting for her. The main character then thinks what kind of inappropriate moment this is and then agrees. The girl then leaves the room, but when she sees Blaine, she is a little surprised and wonders if he was really there all this time. At this time, the guy just approaches the young lady and asks why she is not doing anything. And did she really decide to play with him? The deputy butler then asks, how dare the guy? Well, the main character stops him and claims that she understands Edward's feelings, but there is no need to be mistaken, because they still have time left. Therefore, there is no need to rush things and let him have patience, because this is the only way they will find her. After this, the guy just remains silent, and the young lady wonders if he said that she was playing with him. And she understands that he is impatient, but saying such words is too much, so she is a little upset. Then the young lady enters the dining room and wishes her father good morning. He also wishes her good morning and tells her to sit down. The young lady realizes that Addis and Radon must be busy since early morning, even though they're never home. Meanwhile, the man claims he heard she declined all invitations. After which he asks if there was anything useful among them, and the young lady notes that she simply thinks that now is not the right time. And she has already chosen the family of the Marquis Spendar, and if she involves others, the damage will be greater than the benefit. Misunderstandings can also arise due to different points of view. The young lady's father then says, "That's how it is," and asserts that, judging by her words, something incredible is lurking in the depths of this forest. After which he claims that the girl is thinking about what will happen later and is apparently confident that they will conquer this forest. The main character then thinks what this is and whether her father really decided to interrogate her in this way, and he simply doesn't want to ask questions about what she saw in her dream and whether she had other dreams. The girl also understands what her father wants, but this spoils her mood from the very morning, after which the young lady only gets angry. And the man, noticing this, is a little surprised, after which he looks away and states that he will trust her decision. and this afternoon Marquis Spendar will be coming to see them, so she must be at this meeting. The girl agrees and understands that this is very fortunate, because she just wanted to meet him, after which they just remain silent. A little while later, the Marquis arrives at the estate and says that they saw each other a few days ago, but it seems to him that an eternity has passed. The guy also claims he's very happy to meet the lady. He tells the main character that she sees he's doing well and that's wonderful, and the guy replies that it's all thanks to her. After which the young lady realizes that Damon has the same behavior as last time, but his voice betrays excitement. And perhaps it's because the Marquis arrived with him. And the main character then thinks he looks young, and it seems the rumors about him not being deprived of female attention are true. The main character then bows and declares that it is an honor to meet the Marquis and that her name is Serdel Robesta. The man then explains that they haven't seen each other in a long time and that quite a while has passed since her debut. The young lady then realizes that he is talking about Serdel before her transfer, and she does not know why, but judging by the memories remaining in her body. The condition at that time was not very good. Because of this, she only faded, although she should have shined brighter than everyone else. The man then claims that her face has become much fresher and claims that he was worried about her. The young lady then realizes that she and Damon are so similar and that both father and son are incredibly handsome. The man claims he heard from his son that she chose their family and asks him to take care of them. The young lady then says she wants to be taken care of. She also understands that this man is not arrogant but not flattering either, after which she claims that she will take him to his father. And a little while later, they're already sitting there. The Marquis then turns to Damon and tells him to go. The guy is a little surprised after this, but Cartel then turns to him and tells him to stay with them. The Marquis then turns to the Count with some irritation and claims that Damon is not his only son and that he has many children who are more capable in this area. Therefore, he argues that it would be better to choose someone else instead of Damon. However, the Earl claims that he and Sir Damon have already discussed much regarding the forest, and if he is not there, it will only complicate the situation, and he chose the Marquis as a partner after meeting him. Therefore, he also asks that their family feuds not be brought into this matter. The Marquis then realizes that the Count is warning him, so that he doesn't involve his two other sons in this matter, and understands that everything is not so simple and, besides, he has more power regarding this business. At this time, the guy looks at his father, then hands over the documents and claims that he prepared this especially for today's meeting, so he asks if they can look at it first. The Duke then takes the documents in his hands, and he understands that this guy has collected information about inactive states discovered in the past on the territory of the Marquis and about the best approach to choose for the deposit that will be discovered in the Elbosch forest in the future. The man then realizes that this is indeed a good job, and then tells the guy to sit down. After all, he will also show him something, after which he shows the document and tells the guy to take a look, because he briefly outlined the method of extraction and future plans regarding the mine for the extraction of magic stones. The Marquis then looks at this and realizes that this is different from the plan for a regular mine, and is more like a war. He then claims to provide them with 50 knights, 1,000 soldiers, and several miners with mining experience. He will also separately hire about 200 Class A mercenaries to participate, who will be active in the Marquis' territory, and provide them with an additional 5,000 gold. The young lady understands that he's subtly boasting about caring for his people, but she understands that these things are important in negotiations. Meanwhile, the Marquis asserts, as for weapons, there's a very good gun shop on their territory, and he asks about Togo entrusting this task to them. The Count agrees and says that they've already stocked up on food supplies, after which the man says that he would like to look at one of the magic stones, since he has never seen it up close. And the young lady understands that they will finally move on to the most important thing, after which they will provide this stone. The Marquis then looks at this in shock, and the Count asserts that they will give them 10% of the production every month after the development of the mine. The Marquis then claims that he didn't really get a good look at him, and asks if he's being too impatient, since he thinks that the reward should be discussed after examining the birthplace as a whole. After all, If the magical power in the mine is uneven, and there's a significant difference in the quality of the magical stones, everything will be different. The young lady understands that the Marquis seems unwilling to suffer losses, but the Count claims that he cannot promise them more than 10%. A little while later, the Marquis is already leaving, and Damon then claims that this time he was really very nervous, and the young lady replies that it was obvious, after which the young man asks if it was very noticeable that the girl is silent, and he says that it seems very noticeable. The main character understands that her father is lower in status than the Marquis, but as a man of high birth, he is not inferior to him at all. The young lady's father claimed that in return, if the loss exceeded the profit, they would compensate them separately for the cost of the loss. And the Marquis himself saw that even if the quality turned out to be lower, these stones would not be inferior to stones from other mines. And 10% isn't exactly a small offer. So now the young lady understands that it meant he had nothing to lose, so he shouldn't talk nonsense. The girl also understands that since he was so determined, the Marquis could not do anything, and yet it is difficult to achieve a middle ground in negotiations with her father. At this time, Damon asks what the lady was thinking about, and she replies that it was about the research, and then asks if everything will be okay with his half-brothers. The guy replies that since a magical contract was made, even his father can't do anything. After which, he also looks at the young lady and asks if she is worried about it. The girl then asks what he is talking about, and the young man claims that he is talking about her participation in the study. After all, it will be very dangerous, and she may get hurt, or even fall into eternal sleep. Or a scar may appear on her body that will burden her life, and he worries about it. After which he asks what he will do if something unimaginable and terrible suddenly happens. He also claims that of course he respects her decision, but he would be lying if he said that he did not want to dissuade her from this idea. And the main character understands that this guy is so sincerely worried about her that she even became embarrassed. After which she turns to Sir Damon and says that what is more important is that they are now finally together. So the young lady suggests they try. The young man is a little surprised, but then takes the young lady's hand in his. And he kisses her. And the girl thinks what this unfamiliar feeling is. And it seems as if something is tickling her or her heart is fluttering. And perhaps it's a feeling of regret that this moment can't last forever. Meanwhile, the guy insists that no matter what he says, it seems she won't change her mind. So he suggests they try together. Meanwhile, the young lady ponders what to call this feeling. A little while later, the girl is already heading down the corridor, but is wondering what the guy's expression was. After which she also understands that someone is coming when she looks in front of her. Then she sees Blaine. The guy then wants to say something to her, but the young lady just walks past him. Sir Del understands that he has to hide his inner world, but even so, he shouldn't rush, because he needs to wait, and now is not the time. A little while later, Tara comes into the girl's office and says that he brought what she asked for. The young lady claims that he completed the job in just 2 days and worked hard, but she thought it would take longer. The young man then claims that this was her order, so of course he had to quickly carry it out, after which he hands the mask to the young lady, but says that he got it, and as she ordered, well, he asks if she is going to go there. The young lady smiles after this, and the guy at the same moment claims that he is just worried. And he doesn't ask how she knows about this place, but he's interested in whether she's really going to go there, because it looks very dangerous and he's sincerely concerned. The young lady then replies that there is a person whom she must definitely find, and it would be more correct to say that there is a person whom she must save, after which the guy says that maybe the lady will describe him and he will try to find him, but the main character refuses, and he claims that she herself should go, because it will be difficult for people of non-noble origin to get in there, and even if he gets inside, he still won't be able to cope. After which he says that in any case, he worked hard and now let him go. After which she also asks if he knows that this needs to be kept a secret from Siri, to which the young man is a little surprised. And he claims that he knows that if he gets caught, he won't be able to bare his head, after which he also tells the lady to be careful, and the main character replies that she understands. the girl also looks at the mask and understands that this is a pass to that place and the fact that Edward could not find it. Although I searched everywhere, it means that most likely this is one of two places to which the Information Guild does not have access. The first is the Imperial Palace, and the second is a dirty place located on the other side of the bright and colorful system, which the average person has no idea about, and this place is nothing more than a slave market. The girl understands that in the original, Edward managed to find the place where his sister was buried, and to some extent. Only because she was no longer alive, this became known thanks to the fact that the informant saw the scene of the disposal of a non-living body. The girl understands that it was found in a place controlled by Count Solette, and in the prohibited trade, he became famous for imprisoning all sorts of slaves in the basement of his mansion. So the main character thinks he's a pretty nasty guy. Then she hears someone enter the room and asks if Terry had anything else to say. But then the young lady sees that it is Edward, and in the end, the guy could not stand it and came to her himself. The young man then asks if she is even looking for his sister, since there is very little time left before the promised date. The main character then claims that she is looking for her, so let him wait, but the guy only says that she should not lie to him. After all, no one here can find his sister. The main character then realizes that if anyone heard this, they would be upset. But the young lady then asks if he wants the family knights to deal with this, and if he even knows where his sister is, whom he has been looking for so long. But now, when all eyes are on the Robusta family, if even the slightest rumor appears that the Count's family is looking for someone, others will immediately find her. The young man then tells her to at least share the information that she knows, but he asks the main character why. And why should she trust him and share information when he doesn't even trust her? The young man then almost trembles and bows, asking the lady for help. He claims she is his only true love, who survived and he must find her, so the guy asks the girl about it. The young lady realizes that his heart and will must have been broken dozens or hundreds of times while he was searching for his little sister, and the fear that his sister might have already plunged into eternal sleep, and if not, then he simply wouldn't be able to find her, circled around the guy. And now he has a new hope that he will be able to meet his little sister again, and naturally he will become more impatient and anxious. That's why now she understands that she can't tell him anything and only tells the guy to go ahead. The young man is a little surprised by this, and the girl understands that he will immediately go out there and they both could find themselves in great danger. Sardell then claims that it seems Blaine has forgotten, but he should not forget about the agreement they made that day. After all, if he acts arbitrarily, then her plan will collapse, and the young man is a little surprised after this, but still falls silent and leaves the room. The girl understands that now he is very excited, and this is an image that could not be seen in the original. The girl claims that she knows how much torment and betrayal he has experienced from other people, and he knows that he spent his whole life trying to find his sister, and that he finds it hard to trust her. While the young lady insists that he should trust her and wait a little, because she will definitely find his sister. And he needs it too. The young man then simply lowered his gaze and, turning around, said he would go, and also trust her. When the guy leaves, the young lady picks up the mask again, and she tells the guy to just be patient because there's only a little bit left. A little while later, the guy has a dream, how he spent the winter with his sister and told the girl not to run away from him. The young lady insisted that everything was fine and suggested that her husband go faster, but he said that it was dangerous. Lara then told her brother to look because the lake was completely frozen over. The girl also wanted to step foot on it, but the young man did not allow her to do this at that moment, and said that if the ice gets dirty, she will fall through it. But the girl with a smile on her face told him not to worry because everything would be fine, and even if something happens, her brother will save her, after which the girl said that she will do it quietly. And she asked him, but at that very moment the ice under her foot began to crumble, after which the girl fell into the water. Now the young man wakes up and breathes heavily, after which he puts his hand on his forehead and remains silent. At this time, the main character dresses in a different outfit and then sees a guy entering the room, and he claims he's come. The guy then asks if today is really that day, and the girl replies that yes. That night she will go to save his sister, and to be more precise, she will go to buy her. The young man then asks if she is really going to buy, and if she is talking about the slave market, then he has already been to each of them. The girl then claims that this is not a place where he could go and asks if he will believe her, that there is a place that he cannot even imagine. After this, the young man only frowns, and the main character understands that in such a state he will definitely do something, although in order not to ruin this matter, she did not reveal any information. Now she understands that first of all she needs to calm the guy down, after which she turns to him, and she claims that she understands his feelings but let him listen to her calmly. A little while later, the guys claim that he smelled her. After this, he is already carrying the young lady in his arms, and the main character says that, frankly speaking, the likelihood that his sister is now in good condition is very small, because they don't know what a terrible situation this child could be in while she was there, because this place is hidden and dangerous so much that he couldn't find it. After which the guy puts the young lady on the floor, and the girl claims that if he cannot control his anger there, then she cannot guarantee the safety of his sister. But, be that as it may, let him try to ensure that nothing like this happens, and he must remain calm even when he sees his sister, because that way they can safely get her out of there. And also let him not let his feelings lose the opportunity to rescue his sister, so let him not get involved in anything and believe in her, believe that she needs him. After which the girl asks him to help her. She also gives him a veil and tells him to cover his face with it. One of the servants then turns to the young lady and asks if she is ready, and then he knocks, after which he does so. Then someone extends their hand and asks the purpose of the visit. The guy replies that he brought the owner with him because he heard about an interesting product. And a couple of days ago he came there to reserve a table, after which he asks if he doesn't remember him, but this voice only asks if the guy could confirm his identity. The young lady then asks if he's going to check her identity, even though she has the pass on her face. This is incredibly rude. The man then apologizes and claims it's necessary to confirm that he was the one who made the reservation. The young lady understands that they are extremely cautious and will not allow strangers under any circumstances. The voice then confirms that their status has been confirmed, apologizes for their rude behavior, and hopes for their leniency. After which, the main character and the guy go inside and then someone greets them. After which he claims that he will take them to the place where the slaves are, and they all move on. The young man also recalls the words of the main character that she has the right to acquire slaves first. And initially, winning a duel in that place was considered a privilege, so let the guy just know that she had a hard time getting this thing. The young lady also claimed that his sister's name was on the list of new slaves. And this is reliable information, and there will be no other chance, so let him swear that he will never start acting up. Now he's wondering how Sir Del Robusta knows all this. The man who's escorting them calls out number 97. After which a secret passage opens there, and the young lady realizes that a moment ago there was nothing there. After all, they even use illusion magic, so the young lady wonders what the hell they are hiding. The man then asks them to move on, and the main character hears all the screams of the slaves. The man turns to her and insists they take as many as they want. Sir Del understands this is disgusting and that the man's sister must be somewhere out there. At this time, the young man hears someone's cry for help, and when he turns around, he looks at this person in shock. It turns out it's his sister, and she's all emaciated, asking for help. The guy is shaking and almost crying. Well, then the main character tells him to be quiet, after which she turns to the man who led them there and claims that she likes this child. After which the girl is brought out, and the man says that this is her new mistress, so let the girl greet her. The main character then says how dirty she is and thinks how they treated her, because the girl is in bad condition. Blaine's sister then apologizes, and the main character only asks her name. The girl replies that her name is Lar, and Sir Del insists that at least she's not crazy, so he's taking her. The man then asks if they're leaving already. It's a shame, because they have so much more interesting stuff planned. For example, a show of goblin illusionists that works on the energy of slaves, and frankly speaking, this is the highlight of this evening, so who will have the chance to see something like this? However, the young lady merely claims that he talks too much, and the man asks for forgiveness for his rudeness. The girl then insists that they leave, and the man then thanks her and tells her to come again. As they walk, the boy's sister apologizes to the lady and claims that she has stained the nobleman's expensive clothes. She also committed an unforgivable act and it is all her fault, so she asks not to beat her because it is her fault. But the main character says that everything is fine and that the girl should calm down because it's all over. The young lady also claims that she will not harm her and also came to help her, so the girl is not afraid of the train. Lar then, with tears in his eyes, cries out to the lady that she will wash everything, and that it was because of her that her clothes got dirty. And the main character replies that it's okay, but then her brother turns to Lar and the girl is surprised, after which she looks at the guy and with tears in her eyes asks if this is really her brother. The young man is also almost in tears. Well, the main character says that the first thing they need to do now is leave this place safely. After which she also tells Blaine to take care of this girl. Then the main character also sees someone walking towards them, after which a man with a bag full of something apparently heavy walks past them. The main character, shocked, smells a red liquid. She then realizes she's seeing non-living bodies inside. The screams these people were making echoed in her head, and the young woman wondered what it was all about. The guy asked her if she was okay as her complexion was so bad, after which he turns to the lady again, and the main character asserts that everything is fine, after which she suggests hurrying up and they move on. Sir Dell understands that a gloomy atmosphere reigns everywhere, as if something is sure to happen, and the cells previously filled with slaves are now empty. The girl wonders what this strange phenomenon is and why it continues. She also wonders if this could be a prophetic dream. But she doesn't sleep, after which she thinks whether this is a premonition, but rather she sees everything in a discharge and this is not the future but the present. But she has a feeling as if she is observing everything from the outside, after which consciousness gradually begins to leave her. But then someone loudly addresses the lady, and when he puts his hand on her shoulder, the main character finally comes to her senses. The girl realizes that she almost lost consciousness, after which she says that she will be careful and moves on. But then she hears someone screaming that they want to live. However, the young lady immediately realizes that she needs to think rationally and remain calm. After all, this place can't be touched, and it could affect the story. The girl also wonders, what if a serious problem arises at the end of the story? Or what if unexpected changes occur? However, she knows that feeling when you are eagerly waiting for someone to help you. It is this loneliness and this pain that the young lady understands that she cannot ignore it. After which she claims there's still one more thing she must do. The servant then turns to the lady in shock, and he asks what she is talking about, but the main character then only tells Tara to go to the carriage with Lar first. After which she also turns to Blaine and says that he will help her, after which she asks if he can. The guy then looks at his sister, but the girl turns to her brother and tells them to help. It looks like the lady wants to help other people, so let her brother help her, because he is strong. And the lady sent her, so she asks for help. Tara also turns to the guy and insists that they shouldn't get hurt, otherwise he'll fall into eternal sleep at Siri's hands, and he's not joking now. He tells the main character not to worry and to go ahead, as it won't take long, after which she thanks Tara. The main character also turns to the guy and tells him to give her the veil and he can use it himself. The young man then asks what she is going to do, and the main character asks if there is another way out. After all, they will burn everything there to the ground, after which the young lady opens the scroll, and at that very moment a fire breaks out there. Someone screams for the door to be opened quickly and asks where the security guard has gone. The young lady then realizes that it looks like Blaine has accomplished his task without any problems. The girl also remembers how she said that if he goes all the way, he will see a staircase leading to the basement, and when he goes down, a corridor will appear, but he should ignore it and go down another 10 steps, because this is the right path. The girl also told him to be careful not to fall into the trap of illusions. Then he should go straight ahead and enter the armory. It's the last room on the right. The girl also told him to destroy the device installed on the wall, shrink all the weapons, and get rid of all the crystal balls in the next room, except for the yellow one. The guy then asked why, except for the yellow one. And he covered the young lady with his cape, to which the girl thanked him, after which she claimed that he was hiding this place, and the public should not know about such a place. The young man then asked if the girl had also found out about this place with the help of her abilities, and the lady only nodded, after which she claimed that she was very sorry for asking him to do this. But she still asked him to help find peace for the slaves whose lives were almost ending, and to the healthy slaves he gave each a gold coin and the money she would give him. The guy then asked if she really believed him, and the young lady replied that yes, and even though their relationship began with a deal and they met recently, she believed in a person like him. The young man was a little surprised after this, but then leaned over to the lady and told her to hide somewhere safe, as he would come for her when he was finished. But the main character asked how he would know where she would be, to which the young man merely smiled and insisted that wherever she was, he would find her. Now the main character thinks that even he, having filled the energy, would be able to find her among so many people. And that's amazing. The girl also understands that in any case, because of what happened today, they will not be able to conduct business for some time, since recovery will take a long time. The young lady also understands that she would like to eradicate this place, but it is incredibly difficult, and she feels uneasy because of all this. But her capabilities are not enough for more. Afterwards, the protagonist also hears a voice saying that everything is all right and that he will help her. The young lady understands that this is different from what happened before and is a premonition of the future, but she wonders why now. Besides, it was her voice and this little child. And the main character realizes that he's inside and the whole place is already on fire. The girl also understands that she shouldn't interfere, but when she sees this little boy, she thinks, will she really save everyone but abandon one helpless child, after which she realizes that she can't do that. And it seems she can't do that. But it's unlikely that foresight would have appeared just like that, and perhaps there is a reason why she must save this child. After which the young lady only moves on, but at that very moment, Count Mayant runs past her. And when he sees the young lady, he's surprised and asks if this is Lady Robusta. As the main character runs closer to the boy, she suddenly stops and realizes the illusion goblin is there. The young lady realizes that it seems like they managed to get out amidst all this chaos, but the young lady also thinks that they shouldn't be shy because she doesn't have much time. She then tears one of the scrolls, and magic emerges. The young lady realizes the waltz was blown away by the wind, but she also thinks she shouldn't collide with anyone, and it seems to be in this direction. After which she runs up to the boy and thinks, how is this possible? Because just as in her prediction, this cage is there and this is the child of the beastman, it's inside her. Then the fire behind her flares up even more, and the main character, shocked, wonders when the fire managed to get there. After which she also tries to free the boy, but realizes that the lock is a little loose and the iron bars are bent, so she can't open it right away. The young lady also tells the boy to hold on a little longer. Afterwards, she tries to open the bed but realizes that, given her physical limitations, it won't work. She also considers using her remaining strength, but realizes that the child inside could hurt him. The young woman realizes there might be a tool, but when she turns around, she sees fire and realizes they're trapped. However, the girl realizes now is not the time to panic, and she realizes she needs to pull herself together. The main character takes the steel rods that are already heated, after which she turns to the boy and says that everything is fine because she will definitely help him. The young man then asks if she's going to beat him, and the girl replies no, and she'll save him. The bars are already very hot and almost starting to smoke, but the main character thinks the boy should be patient for a while, because she'll rescue him. Well, then she understands that, as expected, her strength is not enough, but then someone else grabs the cage, and the main character wonders if it is Blaine. However, when he turns around, he sees Count Mayant there, after which he thinks what he forgot there and asks how he ended up there. However, the guy claims that this is a long story and suggests that they first get out of here and also take this child with them, after which they do so, and when they run away, the guy tells her to cover her mouth properly. The young lady understands that Blaine handled everything well, and it seems that other people also got out of there safely. Then a blow passes near him, and the boy barely dodges it. Mayant realizes the fire is getting closer. He then turns to the lady and claims the situation is becoming increasingly dangerous. So have the girl hide behind him and follow him. The young man also grabs his staff, which contains a hidden sword, and draws it, after which he declares that this seems like a difficult guy. At this time, the young man just approaches the young lady and ends up behind her, to which Count Mayant is very surprised and cries out. The main character realizes that this man has a very familiar smell, and a little while later, the guy carries her out into the street. The young man also apologizes for being late and claims that he thought it would be easier to deal with the staff to avoid problems in the future. The main character then asks what happened to the mask she gave him, and the guy claims that he burned it in the fire and he felt very uneasy about it being used in such a dangerous place. After which he also asks if the lady is okay and who she's holding in her arms. The guy also tells her to first let go of the man and let him check if she's hurt. The boy then crawls out from under her clothes and asks if she's hurt and if she's in pain. The boy then turns to the lady, a little surprised, and asks who the child is. Meanwhile, the boy addresses the young lady as his mother and asks if she's in pain. The main character replies that she's not his mother and that he shouldn't call her that, after which the boy addresses her as his sister and asks again if she's in pain. Blaine then asks where the girl found this child, after which he grabs him by the clothes and claims that this boy cannot be taken with her. After all, he checked many places and did not find anyone, so it seems that this child was locked up alone for some purpose. But the boy then tries to break free and screams for him to let go. The young man at this time claims that most likely a list of nobles who insist only on beastmen slaves has already been circulated, and if this child is seen, she may be suspected of colluding in this matter. The boy only whines after this and insists he'll be obedient. Blaine, however, insists that he may be a child, but he's a beast, even with his rapid growth. However, the young man then insists once again that he will be good. Blaine insists that they don't have time and that the lady needs to get home quickly and heal her arm. The young man only insists that he won't eat and will pick his own herbs and eat. He also claims that he doesn't want to be alone again, and he is very calm and kind and can be very, very obedient, so he asks not to leave her. Blaine then looks at his bitten hand and wonders if this is really called calm, while the young man at this time claims that he can also transform well, and the young lady asks what he is talking about. But at the same moment, the guy turns into a dog, after which he claims that he can turn into the family he belongs to, or become a bird or a fox. He also says he's never done this before and thought it was best not to show off his abilities. The main character realizes the boy's voice is penetrating her mind and wonders if this is a family trait. And besides, the young man transforms calmly, so she wonders if this is really the case and asks if by any chance he is from the Tao Wolf family. The guy just nods after that, and the main character understands that from the moment she decided to save this child, she planned to take him with her. But who would have thought that he would be one of Tawel's wolves? The symbol of the forest is the Tawel wolf family, and in their youth they are vulnerable to survival, but when they become adults, they gain strength that can compete with most species, especially in the forest. That's why they have another name, the Kings of the Forest. The young lady understands that they are difficult to find in such places. The guy went beyond his territory and was caught by hunters, or, since he was known for his peculiarity, he could have been forced out of the group. At this time, Blaine turns to the lady, and the main character claims that she will take full responsibility, so they suggest quietly leaving this place. The young man is a little surprised, but then says he understands, and they head to the karate class. Then they are met by a servant who, shocked, addresses the lady. The main character then asks where Lar is, and the guys answer that she is in the carriage and was a little nervous, so she fell asleep now, and he cured her with the medicine that they brought with them, so there shouldn't be any problems, after which he tells the main character that it's good and he's a good guy. And the guy at this time asks why the lady is so late, but then looks in shock at her burnt hand. The main character claims that she has used up all the extra potions. And he suggests that Tara, for starters, say nothing and leave this place as soon as possible. The guy only gets angry after this and screams at Blaine, asking what he was doing. And what was he doing when the lady was so injured? She put herself in such danger to save his sister, and he... After which the servant also claims that he thought about them returning safe and sound, but if he had known that this would happen, he would not have let them in. After which the guy turns around and tells them to get into the carriage quickly, as they need to hurry to heal the wound. Blaine then merely lowers his gaze, and the main character then turns to him with concern. Afterwards, they go to the carriage, and when the boy sees his sister in good condition, his heart is at peace. The main character then realizes that Lara's wounds have disappeared, and if it weren't for her clothes, no one would have thought that she was locked in such a place. But because she was injured, Tara felt guilty for no apparent reason, even though she was the one who told him to go with Lar to the carriage, and the boy couldn't forgive himself. The young lady also understood that she was weighed down. At this point, Blaine approaches her. The main character asks what's wrong, and the guy just looks sadly at her burn hand, then bows and thanks her. He also claims that she's done him a great favor, and that he couldn't repay her even with his life. After which he thanks her again and claims that he can't express his gratitude and regret in words, and doesn't even know what might have happened to them if it weren't for her. The main character then tells him to be sure to thank Tara for healing his sister. The girl also takes off her cloak and says it would be better to cover Lar with it. The main character then realizes with a smile on her face that thanks to this, the two people managed to escape from the original plot. And Lar will not fall into eternal sleep, but thanks to this, hope has returned to Blaine. And although she doesn't know what happened in the original story, this child's life was probably changed, just like the countless escaped slaves. The young lady now understands that she can finally breathe a sigh of relief, and from the fact that she can finally relax, she feels sleepy. The girl also understands that she was simply trying to break off the engagement to change her life, but everything is changing more than she thought, and she wonders if she can cope with all these changes. And today, she acted recklessly again and almost died. But if she continues to move forward, perhaps she can achieve a happier ending. At this point, someone informs the lady that they have arrived, and the protagonist realizes she has dozed off. Then she also notices she is wearing a cloak, and then she turns to the guy and says that she told him to cover his sister with this, but the guy claims that his sister drank a healing potion, so that her condition will not worsen, but on the contrary, she had a bad complexion. After which the main character just remains silent, and the young man apologizes for the fact that he could not take care of her properly, after which the main character replies that no, and that he is his sister, whom he finally managed to find. And besides, they summoned her from such a terrible place, so it was quite helpful, so everything is fine. The servant at this point turns to the young lady and assures her that he will return a little later after taking care of the remaining business. After which, he also tells the lady to quickly start treatment and tells the main character not to worry and also claims that he tried hard. After all, healing Lar in the first place was the right decision. The boy merely nods, almost in tears, then thanks the lady and leaves. The main character then turns to Blaine and suggests they go in and get Lar, who needs a bath. The girl also understands that she is a little dizzy because she is still overtired, but at this time someone screams her name. The main character then turns around and sees that it's Mant. The guy then asks if she's okay and wonders if he's worried about the main character. Mant claims that she was kidnapped by a stranger right before his eyes, so how could he not worry? Because suddenly something happened to her, and he decided that he needed to report it to the Count. The main character then realizes that it is clear that his plan was to help her father by reporting her kidnapping, and then use this as an excuse to get permission to participate in the development of the Elbash forest again. So one look at his face, utterly regretful, and the main character thinks what a vile idiot he is. But then Blaine turns to him and tells him to move away. He also removed his hands. Mayant then asks if this guy is the young lady's bodyguard, and he only remains silent in response. The Count then says okay, but asks since when has the girl been going to such dangerous places and if the lady really enjoys it. The main character is only surprised after this. Well, and then he claims that in that case he also likes it since he was there too, to which the guy is surprised and then cries out that he did not come there to enjoy such exorbitant prices. And he needed to find out something, after which the main character only turns to him and thanks him for saving her, but claims that that's all and she's fine, so he can go. The young man then claims that he understood her, only in return he wants to keep the promise he gave her, and then he pours some liquid onto the young lady's hand. The protagonist then feels pain. But after that, he sees her wound completely heal. The guy then says that he'll go then. And the young lady thinks what a creepy smile he has, and all this will remain as a debt, so he must have thought it all out in such a short time, and what a snob he is. After which the guy simply rides off on a horse. Blaine then turns to the young lady and asks if she is okay, and the girl replies that she is not, after which the young man only remains silent and then states that if the nobleman is put into eternal sleep, the situation will take a serious turn. So maybe he should make it look like he fell off a horse and get rid of him. The young lady then wonders what he's talking about, and the guy insists that she was their sister, so if the girl orders him, he'll definitely do anything. The main character then claims it's a tempting offer, but she doesn't want to cause problems with the very important family business. The guy then says he'll do it after everything is finished, but tells the main character to calm down. After which he claims she's tired, so he suggests they hurry inside and let him put Lar to bed. She also thinks, more importantly, that the Count isn't the type to waste time on something like that, so he was telling the truth. The fact that he did not come there to enjoy such inappropriate scenes and he needed to find out something, so the young lady thinks that perhaps he went there not because of the market itself, but because of the aristocrats who like to visit this place. But the girl also wonders who could have interested Mayant during this period of time, after which the young lady wonders if it could have been Count Solette. Then the young lady also wonders why she didn't think of this. And since this slave trade is so large scale, of course he would be involved. In the original, Count Mayant was spying on Count Solette in order to take advantage of the weaknesses of Count Dariens, who was trading the drug Hilles with Count Solette. It was a plan to absorb the shady business of Count Dariens, known as the King of the Shadow Sphere, and make it her own. However, everything is happening a little earlier than last time, and the young lady wonders if this is a consequence of the changes to history. The girl claims that she definitely needs to be careful with changes, and no matter what happens, she needs to always be collected, because Count Soleil is a person with whom it is better not to deal, because nothing good will come of it. The young lady also understands that she must first deal with Mayant. The young man, meanwhile, is in his estate, clutching the letter fiercely and then screaming out Sir Del Robesta's name. He also claims that both the servant and the mistress are incredibly impudent, and how dare she send a squire, not even a knight, to her. He then claimed that the lady was grateful to him for yesterday and asked him to convey this to him. The guy is now screaming that she's now even threatening him in this way. After all, the letter says she didn't ask for it, but is grateful for his help anyway, and she didn't see him there, just as he didn't see her there. And it would also be no good for either of them if anyone found out that they were visiting such indecent places together, and besides, no one should know that he was following Count Solette. And wouldn't it be dangerous if it became known that he was trying to use him to take over Count Dariens' business? So now the guy gritted his teeth, wondering how the girl had found out about this. And since this was a very dangerous matter, everything was carried out secretly and with a small circle of people to avoid potential betrayal, which also keeps each other in check and there should be no cracks, so he wonders where they came from and also whether the girl was really following him. Because if so, then from what moment? And besides, it's his facial expression and manner of speech. After all, in the letter, the girl wrote that she hoped he wouldn't get on her nerves anymore. Otherwise, he'd find out how much was known about him, and her attention to him would end there. The young man is now practically shaking, realizing that he expected her to try to hold on to him until the very end. Then, all attention would have been focused on Robesta and the reason for the breakup. He planned to continue his business while Count Robesta's reputation was so tarnished. Now, however, he only remembers it as a squire. He claimed that the lady asked him to convey that there was nothing more between them, and that she no longer wished to be connected to him in any way, which is why the Count was now only screaming, and he understands that he has completely lost. But this girl has led him around by the nose, so now he is thinking about what to do. Well, at that very moment he sees a strange red thing above him, and in shock he thinks what it is. Meanwhile, the main character claims that the Count has probably already read the letter. She also thinks he's probably feeling confused, angry, and anxious, and has no idea where the information leaked from. His last name may be Mayant, But becoming an enemy of Count Durian's will significantly complicate his life, so the young lady ponders what to do. She also realizes that, for now, they've disrupted Count Mayant's ability to focus on developing the forest. But in a few months, Count Durian's shadow business will fall into his hands, and this cunning idiot will definitely want to obtain trading rights. Then he'll start to investigate again and look for the cause of what happened at the slave market. Therefore, before he gets hit, he needs to strike first, and the girl realizes she must stop the guy from taking over Count Durian's business. The young lady also understands that she can't team up with a scumbag like Durian's, so there's only one option left. And now the young lady only sighs and says it's a shame she has no one to rely on. But then someone addresses the young lady as a sister and says she has him. It turns out to be the very same boy she rescued from slavery. And now the main character asks if he has woken up, after which she claims that the answer has changed again, but the young man only replies that he has and smiles. Sardell claims that there was no time at all, so she did not even find out his name, after which the young lady asks what his name is, but the guy is then a little puzzled and asks if she is talking about a name, after which he claims that he does not have a name. The young man claims that his parents were caught by hunters before they could give him a name, and the main character then claims that she should first come up with a name for him. Then he asks if he wants her to do it, to which the fluffy one only rejoices, then jumps up and says he wants his own name, and the young lady ponders which one would suit him. She realizes she's not particularly good at this, so she needs to think about it, after which the girl finally finishes her thoughts and asks him if he likes the name Dell. She also insists that it's the last syllable of her name, and that her name is Sardell. The young man is then surprised and asks if this means she'll share her name with him. The girl realizes she thought he wouldn't like it because it looks like she didn't try at all, but thankfully it's the opposite. Well, then the young lady receives a notification from the system, and it says that by sharing part of her name with the wolf cub Towel, she has the opportunity to become his owner, so the system asks if she wants to leave a soul imprint. Once the imprint is left, have her press on the cub's forehead and call its name. The young lady then realizes she's never seen such a status window before, and wonders if it's because she's on level 2. After which, the girl pokes the fluffy creature's forehead and says that its name is now Dell. After which, a message arrives stating that she has shared her name with the wolf cub, Towel, and the two souls are sealed together, and their minds connect. All the memories and emotions of the fluff ball flood her mind, and they share their minds and each other. Horror then, with a smile on his face, says that Sister is a good person. He also claims he's so lucky she found him because now he won't be lonely and neither will she. After which he simply smiles and claims she left an imprint, so now he just needs to wait 2 years. After all, when he is 3, he will become much bigger than he is now, and then he will protect the lady so that she does not worry as before, to which the young lady agrees. A little while later, Monem enters the main character's room. The girl then says she was just about to call her and asks how Blaine and Lar are. The woman replies that, as the lady told her yesterday, she prepared a room for his sister and they are both still asleep. The boy, who always carried a ball around with him and even slept with it, suddenly put it down. The young woman then wondered if this was really true, and it seemed he had become calmer since finding his sister. So now the young lady says that's fine, and when they wake up, let the woman make sure they eat, to which Monem agrees, but then tells the lady that she still needs to report something. Blaine is sitting next to his sister at this time, but then he suddenly wakes up and wonders if he really fell asleep. That's not like him. Then he also looks at his sister. Then he smiles and thinks how long it's been since he felt something like this. It feels like he's returned to the time when he lost everything, and thought such a day would never come again. The young man also now understands that this is all thanks to the lady, and wonders if he had such a person who gave him confidence and faith after his parents and older brother were plunged into a crippled sleep. Having wandered for a long time in search of her, he, unable to find the person dear to him, felt sorry for him, who had lost faith in himself. The girl managed to get so close, so the guy wondered where such courage came from in such a small body, and this decisive force was dazzling, so much so that I wanted to trust her completely. At that moment, someone spoke to the guy, and it turned out to be his sister. When the girl got out of bed, the first thing she did was hug her brother tightly, after which she claimed she missed them terribly and that thank God they're alive and okay. She also asks why they found her so meanly, since she thought she'd fall into eternal sleep and was very lonely. The young man then begins to cry as well, thanking her for staying alive and for not falling into a crippling sleep and for enduring everything. He realizes that the hell he thought he'd never escape from is finally over. Or the warm sunlight falling through the window, a blanket softly covering the body, clean water and clean dishes, warm soup and delicious food. The young man also understands that he no longer has to live as if someone is chasing him. He no longer needs to be afraid or suffer pain. Everything around her is pointing to this. The main character is in the garden at this time, thinking about something. The head maid reported a while ago that she'd found out something about Rudella. They say that the girl is saving up a tidy sum to retire, and her future husband works for the Robin's trading group and was recently passed over in the battle for promotion, and also seems to have lost his position. And they plan to use Togo's severance pay to create a new trading group. The young lady then claimed that if they moved to another territory, it might still be possible, but they're in Jeddo. It will be difficult to get a 10-penny shop, and the young lady also has no doubt that she will sell information about the Count as soon as the money runs out. The maid knows little about Epoch, but it still won't be a good thing. At this time, the head maid asks whether to postpone Rudella's resignation for a while, but the young people say that she should continue, and instead, she will meet with her in person. The girl realizes this might be her chance to find the person she's been missing. A short time later, the girl comes to the mistress, and the protagonist realizes she'll have to test Rudella a little. The girl then asks what the mistress is talking about, and the lady replies that she heard the girl is getting married and congratulates her. The maid then thanks her and asks if the mistress had been out for a walk and decided to stop by. "And should I pour her a cup of tea?" Serdell replies, "That would be nice." And the girl insists that she'll get everything ready right away. The young lady realizes that the maid has changed the subject so easily because she's embarrassed to talk about it in front of her, who recently had a broken engagement, and her communication skills are impressive. The main character also tells the maid to make tea for herself too, which surprises the girl a little. A little while later, they are already sitting together at the table, and the main character claims that, before coming there, she approved of the girl's resignation. And she said that her future husband has been a member of their group of traders for a long time. To which the maid replies, and the main character asks if she plans to trade with him after she leaves. The girl doesn't even know what to answer after this, and the young lady claims that she doesn't know how much they both managed to save, but in Jeddo, it will be difficult to recoup all the costs from purchasing the store to its preparation, and besides, as far as she heard, her future husband. The maid then claims his name is Edvin, after the main character. She replies that yes, she heard he couldn't handle the competition and was eventually fired. So she asks if the current head of the merchant group will stay. Edvin's shop, which will become his competitor, is at peace. The maid then replies that they'll have to live with that. And regarding the lack of money, there's someone Edvin met while working in a merchant group. He said he owned several buildings. The main character then asserts that if he approached him this way, he must be a moneylender. The young lady claims this is the shortest route to becoming a legal slave. The maid is surprised by this, but the young lady realizes that everything is as expected. The maid then realizes that, although she and Edvin currently have a higher income than ordinary people, it's not enough. Working in a merchant group and managing your own are two different things. However, she still does not understand why the lady decided to personally start a conversation with her on this topic, because she is not the kind of person who would interfere in someone else's life without reason, and especially not the kind of person who would put her in an awkward position for the sake of entertainment. Then she needs something from them, and the girl then asks if the lady really needs a group of traders directly reporting to her. The main character then asks why the girl thought so, and she claims that there are also many rumors about the Count's development of the Elbash forest, and there are several traders. Who would like to take over the mineral trade? And in times like these, of course, she will need a reliable, honest leader of a group of traders who would never betray her. The main character understands that this girl is smart, and her skills in reading the situation are better than she thought. And she even quickly remembered about the development of the Elbash forest. So as expected, Rudella is the best fit for this job. So now the main character insists that everything is as the girl said, and she will organize the group of traders they want. In exchange, let the girl become its deputy head. The girl then tells the lady to wait a bit, as this is too sudden, and the young lady replies that she didn't make this decision suddenly. After all, while she was processing the documents for her resignation, she checked the accounting books and the tasks she had been handling. The work was carried out very systematically and rationally, and the feedback from other employees also concurred with her assessments of her. And besides, the magical stones from the Elbash forest will significantly help their group of traders, so she offers cooperation. However, the maid then apologizes to the Iceman and claims that it seems she will not be able to accept her offer. And the main character then asks if she is really refusing and says that she thought this was a rather attractive offer for a merchant, because this is a business in which a newly formed group of merchants can make a decent amount of money. And the girl then claims that she has never done anything except work as a maid, and the fact of founding a new group of merchants does not change her abilities in any way, so she cannot take on such a big role. She also claims that Edvin has certainly worked in this field for a long time, but not at this level, and they will not be able to help her. Well, the main character then asks how she was going to create a new group of traders with such thoughts. The girl claims that the scale of the business they are planning to open is not particularly large, and it would be difficult to even call them a group of traders. But the main character then turns to the maid and asks why she is so unsure of herself, and she doesn't want the girl to give up without even trying. Therefore, let her not underestimate herself, because she thinks that the girl can handle it, but if she still feels anxious, then let her just trust her. The girl then remains silent and thinks that this was a decision made to help Edvin, who had lost his job, and of course she is worried because she even quit her job as a maid, and if something goes wrong, everything will be over. Therefore, the girl wonders what the lady saw in her that made such an offer about the main character, who claims that she will take responsibility for burning them, and therefore hopes that the girl will trust her. The young lady understands that a worker who is aware of the internal affairs of the Count's residence and is so smart will be useful to her, so she mentally asks Rudella to say that she will follow her. At this point, the girl realizes that there is definitely some reason for this kind of treatment, after which she turns to the lady, and he asks how about Togo first talking about this with Edvin. After which the main character understands that the job is done, and he says that this is great, so they will do everything before sunset, and the girl is then a little surprised, after which she asks if she should invite Edvin there. The main character replies that no, and she will go herself, because she is the one asking her for a request, so she should do at least this, and the girl also asks to call Blaine. A little while later, the maid says that the lady must have had a hard time getting there, but the main character says no. The girl then points to the house and claims that it is a temporary office that they opened before seriously getting into business. Serdell realizes that despite being a temporary office, it's actually quite nice, and it seems they're preparing more seriously than she thought. After which, the main character says she'll do that first. Afterwards, she tears up the paper, and the maid asks the lady what it is. Serdell replies that it's a sound-blocking flower, and the situation will become more complicated if the wrong people overhear their conversation. But at that very moment, Blaine covers the lady because something is flying at her. It turns out to be the maid's husband, and he greets them with a smile. The girl then runs up to her husband in shock. He apologizes, claiming he was too nervous, and then declares he's glad to meet them and that his name is Edvin. The main character then replies that she's also glad to meet them. The guy then asks them to wait a little because he will bring out tea and sweets, and a little while later they are already sitting at the table. The man claims Rudella briefly briefed him on the situation and that they are grateful for the opportunity. But then he turns to the young lady. He asks if she used camouflage. The girl replies that she used a magical item to remain unnoticed. The guy then repeats the sound blocking and magical item. He then asks if the identity of the leader of the trading group should remain secret. The girl replies that right now, yes, but it will eventually become known, though she doesn't intend to reveal it herself. The man then says that's understandable, and then he too won't tell anyone about her luck. And first, if she wants to entrust him with the job, how about he assume the responsibilities of general manager? And the young lady says that initially she wanted to offer him the position of deputy head, but since he wants it, so be it. However, the guy then asks if the girl hadn't already offered the position of deputy head to Rudella, and he is against having two deputies, because the Robbins trading group also had a lot of problems due to the power struggle between the two deputy heads, and because of this, he ended up leaving the group. He also claims that, moreover, if they work side by side, their power becomes too strong, which is, on the contrary, dangerous. Serdell then realizes that he has a cool head about his future position. The man then argues that as a merchant, she must supply good products that customers want at a reasonable price, and that if she becomes more greedy, she will only see customers as money. And of course, being part of a merchant group, she should profit. Well, if she becomes blinded by money, she'll lose her future, and any authority beyond what's necessary will only cause conflict between them. Therefore, he would be satisfied with the position of general manager. The protagonist then realizes that his work values are clear and quite firm. Well, then she thinks why he decided to follow the strange investors, after which she asks if he really wanted to take money from the man who owns several buildings. The guy then replies that he wanted to, because he's human too, but he couldn't ask him to borrow money. The young lady then asks why, and the guy replies that it was because he couldn't understand what he was like, and that this guest was a big client, and that was the case every time he came. He chose him as the one in charge, so they became close friends, but about 2 months ago he asked him if he wanted to continue working with him, and said that if he wanted, he would open a business for him. The guy continued to refuse, but eventually he asked to tell him if he suddenly needed money. And now the man claims that the situation became complicated and he was tempted, but he also thought that it was wrong. One day he made an offer that was hard to refuse, and he said that he could import a wide variety of goods from different countries, and also offered to sell them together. The young lady then realizes that for imported goods, the import procedures are complex, and the costs are enormous, and even large trading groups find it difficult to implement, but this man is capable, so the young lady asks what he looked like and what he does. The man replies that he doesn't know, but he's definitely not a scammer, as he sometimes bought essential items and things a child might use. Considering he purchased them in large quantities, it's highly likely he was supporting large orphanages. And if that's the case, then this person must be of high status. Blaine then senses something, after which he turns to his uncle and claims that someone is coming, to which the young lady is a little surprised. The man then approaches the door and asks if anyone is there. The maid's husband then stands up and apologizes to the lady, then asks if he can go outside and check who it is, to which the maid agrees. Afterwards, the doors to the room open, and the man apologizes but claims they have an important guest now, so they can't do business, so they should come back next time. But the man then asks if the guy has changed his mind. But he had business with a neighboring trading group, and he decided to drop by and see each other, and he was probably a little late. After which he asks how it is now, and would he like to work with him. But the man then replies that he doesn't answer, he has an important guest now. After which the guy looks at these guests, and the main character, looking at him, is very surprised because it turns out it was Fielden. At this time, the guy starts to approach her and says who it is, but at that very moment, Blaine stands in front of her, and the main character claims that she is fine, after which he claims that they have a meeting and asks if he could leave them. The guy then says that let it be so, but asks why they always collide like this. He also claims that he sees that they have an important guest, so they will have to come another time, and the man turns around in shock and asks if they know each other, but he just leaves. The main character sighs after this, and wonders if she's in the clear. The maid's husband then asks if she knows him, and if they've met before. The girl replies that she doesn't, and that she shouldn't connect her with him. No problem. And the guy then asks for forgiveness for such a surprise, after which he suggests returning to the conversation. He also claims that if the lady trusts him, he would like to join her, and his merchant's intuition tells him to follow her. The maid also nods, and the main character then replies that it's fine and she'll rely on them. As she'd thought, entrusting the trading group to these two was the best decision. At this time, the man only tells the girl to hand over the magical contract, after which the young lady hands it over and tells him to sign it, but understands what is more important. That's Faden Sladen, from the strength of Radian and Blaine to Edward. He has a keen sense of talent, and his insight is comparable to hers in knowing the future. The young lady also thinks that since he even disguised himself to recruit Edwan, it seems like he vouches for him, and it is even possible that Edwan was Fielden's confidant in the trading world, but the name was not mentioned in the original. Serdell also realizes that the problem is that her plan to manage the trading group while hiding her identity could go awry. She's also curious about how meeting His Highness will affect her. The boy, meanwhile, is just heading to the palace and realizes he thought they'd meet during the final inspection before the forced development. But who knew that they would meet again so soon? After all, Serdell Robust's actions after breaking off her engagement with Mayant are quite peculiar and interesting, starting with participation in the development of the Elbash forest, which is not at all typical of her calm nature, and the theft of the fighter whom he noticed in the arena, and this time she appeared in front of the merchant, whom he had been persuading for a very long time. And their actions are strangely similar. It's different from her hesitant image during her debut, and it's as if she's become a different person. Now His Highness just smiles and claims that it is becoming more and more interesting. At this time, the main character says goodbye to the merchant and states that she now relies on him, and the man replies that he understood her. And as she said, they will contact her if Count Mayant and Count Solet's movements become suspicious. The maid also claims that she will pay close attention to anyone who tries to approach her. After which, Serdell comes out but then asks where the horse is, and the guy claims he tied it up about 2 blocks away. The young lady then agrees and suggests they hurry back before they run into someone. The girl also wonders if she made the right decision about the guy. The video of her concern claims that she definitely chose the right path. The heroine then wonders if he's reading her mind and asks why he's so sure of it. The young man, smiling, replies that it's because at least she's already shown him the future he wanted. And he doesn't know what exactly she's worried about, but these two will be fine. And they may seem simpletons, but he saw prudence and determination in them. The main character then smiles and asserts that he's right. Popali then turns to the lady and asks about that fair-haired guy who came in, because he seemed a little strange to him. But then someone turns to the two and asks if they are talking about him. It turns out that this is the same guy who came into the merchant's office, and he claims it. What if he hadn't been so caring? This little girl wouldn't have been patiently waiting for her owner in such a place, and isn't it strange? Because he felt a presence, but not a single sound could be heard. And it immediately becomes clear that they are talking about something secret inside, and it is impossible to completely hide your identity simply by changing your hair color. The guy also claims that he thought the girl was very meticulous, but she turned out to be quite careless, after which he also claims that he's not far behind her, so there's nothing more to add. Blaine then only draws his sword, but the young lady stops him, and he asks if they had any business with him, since they have nothing to talk about. After which she states that if he wants to talk about work, he should come later. The guy then asks if she even knows how much effort he put into convincing this meticulous idiot. Yes, and he wanted to get this too, and this is not the first time the girl has stolen people from under his nose. The young lady then claims that it is just a series of coincidences, and if he has nothing more to say then they will probably go. But His Highness claims that he does not know and he still has not satisfied his personal curiosity. After which he approaches the young lady and claims that he was interested in what expression she would have when she saw him, but he did not have time to see it a little earlier. The guy also claims that light hair suits her better, but at the same moment, His Highness is attacked. The main character then screams for Blaine to stop. However, His Highness had expected this too. Therefore, he repelled the attack and now claims that it seems the young lady's guard is not in the mood, and he could wait without any problems. But it seems to his mistress that this would put him in an awkward position. After which he asks if the Yarden Knight thinks so. The main character then tells Blaine that everything is fine, so let him stop, and the girl understands that it looks like His Highness was making inquiries. Although, what can I say, considering Fielden's status, it won't be difficult for him to find out even about people from other countries. The blonde insists it's an extraordinary talent and she makes him jealous, but the young lady asks what he wants. The young man insists he doesn't want it, but it's a bit awkward for both him and her to talk about it here, and asks if the girl thinks so. And he also claims that he did say that he was interested in what her facial expression would be, after which he turns around and claims that he will end on this note, because suddenly some mouse is eavesdropping on them. After which he also remembers something and, turning to the young lady, asserts that she should be more careful because she never knows from which side the sword will be aimed at her. After which His Highness says that they will see each other again and leaves the young lady. When the girl returns to the mansion, she says that Blaine did well, after which she tells him to go now, because Lar is probably tired of waiting for him. The guy then turns to the lady and, bowing down, thanks her and also confirms that he thought he would never see his little sister smile again, and it was all thanks to her. The young lady is then a little surprised, and at that moment the guy takes something off his neck. He hands it to the young lady, asking her to accept it. He claims it's an artifact imbued with magic and a family heirloom. So let her accept this as a sign of his oath, and this artifact will protect her from danger. And even though he hasn't yet repaid her, he would like to terminate their contract and swear his allegiance to her. The girl then understands that, in the end, a family heirloom is a memory of parents and a thing passed down from generation to generation, and now it is the only trace of his family, so she claims that she cannot accept it. However, the guy asks her to accept him anyway because she saved him and his sister and did too much for him, so he cannot be a simple companion. He wants to help her throughout her life, so she asks him to let her stay with her. The young lady then looks at the guy, and he understands that he has eyes that don't know where to go, as if he doesn't show now how important this is, then they won't let him stay nearby. Afterwards, the protagonist accepts the artifact and thanks Blaine. The young man then claims to be Edward Blaine of the Earl Blaine family, entrusting his body, faith, and life to his benefactor, and swearing to be her sword and shield, and also to protect her and be by her side for the rest of her life. The young lady then sees a message from the system, stating that her luck has increased thanks to the artifact she accidentally acquired. The girl then wonders if this is a status window. It indicates that she has received an ancient relic called the Red Hawk's Eye and Shield. Using the Hawk's Shield, she can protect herself. And with the help of the Red Hawk's Eye, you can see the sincerity of another person once a day. At this time, the guy turns to the lady, or the girl then sees as if his double appears next to him. After which this double bows and thanks the girl for saving him and for allowing him to stay by his side. He also thanks her for calling him by his name recently to find out who he really is. He thanks the girl very much and kisses her feet, which surprises the young lady a little. After which she looks at the guy who asks if something is wrong, and the young lady claims that no, and everything is fine. After which she thinks, does he really not know what just happened? And it seems the guy does not know how to use this artifact, or maybe it is only she who is running the system. The guy then says that's fine, but at that very moment a sword is put to his throat, and the young lady's brother asks what the guy is doing there. After which he again claims he asked a question, and he asks again what the two of them are doing there so late at night. The young lady then asks if it's her brother, and Blaine insists he swore allegiance. Radon then thinks he only needs to look at his insolent face. After which he immediately puts his sword back into its sheath and heads towards his sister. After which he takes the girl in his arms, which surprises her a little, and the young lady's brother then turns to Blaine, and he says that if he doesn't want to plunge into eternal sleep, then he better know his place. Well, the young man just remained silent. The returner then brought the young lady to her room, after which he threw her on the bed, and the girl screamed out how she was supposed to understand this. But when I looked at my brother, I thought why he was in such a state, after which I thought that perhaps he needed medicine. Meanwhile, the guy turned to her and asked if she was upset with him. The girl then wondered what kind of nonsense this was, and she couldn't smell any alcohol, so maybe he hit his head. after which she tells her brother to drink it quickly and leave, while the young man insists that he definitely does. After which he begins to fall off his feet and the young lady does not let him fall and thinks why he is so hot. And what happened since he ended up in such a state? So she turns to her brother again and tells him to drink the potion quickly. The young lady also asked if there was anyone outside, but her brother insisted that she should not create a fuss and also not call people because he was not injured and was not sick, so she should not worry. The main character then asked if something had happened outside and why he was in such a state. And the young man then remembers his mother, who also asked what kind of appearance they both had. The boy then pointed at his sister and claimed it was all her fault, as the girl had run off to catch some cat. The young lady then insisted it was a small fox, and the young man then turned to his mother and told her to do something, because he was already tired, because the girl followed him everywhere, and his mother claimed that it was because she loved her brother. The young man then told her to play with her sister, but the girl insisted that her sister did not want to play with her. The mother of these two only smiled in response to this, after which she turned to Serdel and Redan. She also asked if they wanted to play a game with their mother. Then she pulled out a piece of paper, and she claimed she was going to hide notes all over the garden. The two then asked if she would hide the notes, and the woman replied that everything was so, because each note would contain a clue for the next one. And if they collect all the notes, she will grant their wishes. The boys were only delighted at this, after which the guy claimed that he went first, but now he is wondering why he can't find a clue. The young man then begins to see his mother, after which he claims that he does not see either one. He also doesn't know where she might be, and wandered around for a long time looking for her, but still didn't find anything. And she can't find it. The next morning, the main character wakes up and hears some sounds. The girl also wonders when she managed to fall asleep and remembers how her brother suddenly lost consciousness. So she gave him some potion and put him to bed, after which she herself fell asleep, but judging by the sounds, his condition was bad. The young lady then approaches her brother and realizes that 1 or 2 potions won't be enough to deal with it. The lady also understands that the reason why the potion does not help is that the problem was initially psychological in nature, and the young lady wonders what happened to him outside. The girl also understands that this won't work and that she needs to call the butler, but at this time the guy says the word mom, after which he repeats it and claims that it is dangerous. Therefore, she also asks not to go there. Then the young lady also receives a message from the system about the Red Hawk's eye. It absorbs a person's deep emotions and gives them a form or image. Now the young lady sees the image of her brother before her, who claims that he again could not find anything as during that long time. And he couldn't find a single clue, so he asks what kind of bastards put his mother into eternal sleep. He also wonders if his abilities are really that small and why he can't find anything. The young lady then realizes that he is experiencing deep suffering and self-hatred, as well as guilt. The emotions he's held inside for years since falling into the Countess's crippling sleep are suffocating him. At this time, the young man apologizes to his mother, after which the image disappears. And the main character sees her brother lying with a fever. The girl thinks maybe it's better for her to leave him. After all, it seems she saw something she shouldn't have seen. And the guy is crying. The young lady also thinks that he might have another attack, after which she sits down next to her brother on the bed. And she understands that she doesn't remember anything, but it seems that this was not an ordinary accident. Even for Redan, it must have been a huge shock since everything was erased from her memory. The young lady also wonders if this was the reason why he renounced his status as successor and left the family, and whether it was in order to find clues about the Countess's immersion in eternal sleep. But he'd spent his nerves, shattered his feelings until his fiery will had turned to ashes. The girl also realized that, for the first time, she felt sorry for a man who couldn't give up. But she also understands that there is something strange, because knowing Redan, he used all possible means but still found nothing. Well, the girl also thinks that it can't be that her brother lacked abilities, and that the people behind this were simply not ordinary people, and they weren't the kind of people you could just hire. After all, They were probably initially raised and trained precisely for this purpose, and a person capable of this has great power and also has many resources. And this is someone who harbors deep feelings for the Count or Countess of Robesta. Above all, people who may not like their family, and if we narrow the list down to just those who are close to the Countess, the girl understands that, of course, she doesn't know these people, and she has no clues at all, and now she doesn't have time to figure out how the Countess is falling into eternal sleep. And there aren't enough people who could help. The girl also thought about whether she should make a list and help Redan focus on these people, and also to find out about people who were close to the Countess during her life and to advise them. Treat them with suspicion, but the young lady understands that this is not worth doing. Redan's situation can only get worse. And now the young lady clasps her hands but thinks, to be honest, what difference does it make since he wasn't particularly worried about her either? The guy was always in a bad mood and treated her like a pathetic creature, and he was also kind only when he felt like it. That's why the girl thinks, hasn't he been acting friendly lately? He really is a terrible brother. But now, remembering how much pain she suffered during her illness, the young lady thinks about what she should do. A little while later, she exchanges glances with her brother and realizes what he took from the owner of the room. Her bed. After they're already sitting down to dinner, everyone remains silent. And then I turn to my sister. He asks where she slept. The girl replies that she slept on the couch, and thanks to it, she had a wonderful experience. After all, her muscles and bones hurt so much as if she was about to fall into a crippling sleep, and her lower back felt like it was about to fall off. The young man then claims he's been very tired lately, so he was a bit out of sorts yesterday, and then asks why she didn't just wake him up. She replies that he's rather insolent for someone who ignored her request to fix up the room. After which the guy is silent for a while and then turns to the young lady and asks if this is the only tone she can answer in. But the girl then asks if this is really the only way he can address her, and if someone hears from the outside, they will think that she doesn't have a name. The guy doesn't even know what to answer to this, and after a little thought, asks if he accidentally said something in his sleep, or maybe acted strangely. The main character then looks at him but still answers that no, and he was just snoring. That's why she almost went crazy from this noise and he was grinding his teeth. After which the girl asks if he always has such habits in his sleep, and the guy replies that he is just tired. The young man also wonders whether he had an attack yesterday and thinks that it's good that he appeared before her in such a pitiful state. The boy realizes that every time he failed in his search for clues to find those who put his mother into eternal sleep, he had nightmares, and one of them is a dream in which his mother disappears. Another dream in which he loses his mother's hand forever. And there was also another dream in which his sister was, and now the guy is just silent. After which he asks what happened last night and what she did with that idiot. And the young lady then claims that his name is Blaine, after which she claims that initially they were connected only by an employment contract, but now that he has sworn allegiance to her, she has become his mistress, and he his faithful servant. And she doesn't know what her brother was thinking about, but she hopes that he didn't have any strange thoughts, since this is not a relationship between a guy and a girl. Redan then asks if it's true that there's nothing between them, and the young lady repeats once again that there isn't. After which the guy turns to her and claims that he wouldn't mind if she wanted to use him only for a while, but completely accepting a person with an unknown origin is a little dangerous. But the young lady, when asked why he suddenly decided to raise this topic, and it doesn't matter where he is from, the guy has good skills, and this is the man that even the second prince wanted to get. We then started screaming from the young lady, asking if she really met with the second prince and also when, where, and why, but the girl then said that if he finished eating, she asked him to leave her room. The guy replies that he is not finished yet, but the young lady claims that she thinks he has enough, but the guy asks what she is talking about, because there is still a lot of food left. However, the main character says it's not for him. After which, a fluffy creature approaches the table. And the guy watching the video is a little surprised and then asks what kind of little thing it is. It's the size of a pea, and he asks where the girl picked it up. The young lady answers that it is her child, so let her choose the words, but after that, the guy asks if she wants to say anything. That all this food is his, and won't this baby burst? However, the young lady notes that it might not even be enough for him and that the guy shouldn't underestimate him. That's why she tells her brother to leave, but then the guy screams at her not to be like that. And she at least allowed him to drink some tea. Well, then the main character sends him out the door, after which the young man only sighs, and Dell, having eaten his fill, lies down on the table. The young lady understands that he is so small and eats for 4, and when she brought him for the first time, he also ate a lot. The girl also understands that, nevertheless, being next to him makes her feel calm, and she deliberately pretended in front of Radon that they didn't know anything, but when she thinks about the assassin, her soul becomes heavy. At this time, the fluffy one turns to his sister and asks if something is bothering her, after which he tells her to tell him because he will listen to everything. The young lady then claims that she needs information about certain people, but she has no one who could help with this, and there should not be a single crack through which a leak could occur. Fluffy then listens to all this, and then claims that he thinks he can help with this. He also approaches the window, after which he claims that he is a beast man, and therefore can use it. Most of the animals as his subordinates, and since he is also part of the forest clan, it can read some memories of the stored shadows, and also understands the words of dogs, cats, and small insects. Fluffy then claims he invested his energy and told them to explore the surroundings, and if the girl says so, he can send them wherever she wishes. The young lady then wonders if he really has such an ability. After which he says that it's impressive, Dell asks his sister if he's not cool because the ants are in the garden. And the young lady says that of course he's cool, to which the little animal giggles. But then, the young lady notices someone entering the room and then looks at the door. And she realizes it's Lar. The girl gets nervous but introduces herself, and the main character tells her to come in. But when the girl still remains in the doorway, the young lady wonders what is going on and why she is standing there and does not enter. Lar then claims she wondered if the lady had disturbed her and distracted her from her work. Sardell replies that everything is fine, so let her come in. And the girl does just that. But the main character notices the girl's nervousness and asks if she's really that ugly. Lar replies that she absolutely wouldn't, and the main character then tells her not to be afraid and to come closer. Sardell also asks if Lar had breakfast. The girl answers yes, after which she also thanks the main character and hands over a handkerchief, claiming to have washed it. The main character then thanks her, and the girl then claims the same. She should have arrived earlier and apologized for being late. Sardell then asked how the girl was feeling, and she replied that, thanks to the lady, everything was fine and nothing hurt. The main character then says that thank God, and she was worried about Lar. The girl then asks in shock if the lady was worried about her, and Sardell replies that of course. These words touched Lar, and the girl thanks the lady for saving her and for extending a helping hand to her brother. The main character also remembers how Blaine thanked her, and with a smile on her face, she realizes that they are so similar. After which Sardell also remembers something, and opening one of the drawers tells Lar to look at it. The girl does so then, but when she sees this thing, she is very surprised. The main character asserts that this is a slave document. Lar and the girl in shock remembers everything that happened in that basement. The main character then looks at the girl in shock and asks what is wrong with her, after which she tells Lar to calm down because she is going to get rid of him. But the girl then desperately cries out that she was wrong and asks for forgiveness. She once again, with tears in her eyes, asks for forgiveness for the last time and claims that it is her fault.